We start with the messy, mundane life of our lead, Liam. It was like a sudden jolt of pure electricity hitting him right in the soul. Boom. Just one spark was enough to flip his entire world upside down in a heartbeat. You're probably wondering how, right? I mean, how is a stubborn shut-in supposed to survive in a brutal fantasy world without having the slightest clue about survival? Well, things got weird fast. One day, out of nowhere, a local baron decided he wanted to sell an entire city to our hero. Liam figured he'd have to fork over a mountain of gold. He assumed he could never afford it, but the baron was dead set on offloading his domain. Why? Simple, the old man wanted to retire. His asking price? Just 5 cups. See, the baron once caught a glimpse of a crystal chalice in the duke's palace, but it was nothing compared to Liam's stash. The baron had never seen anything as clear and magnificent as the glass Liam possessed. So, in exchange for just 5 simple cups, the deal was done. Our protagonist literally bought an entire city for himself. He's already daydreaming about finding a beautiful noblewoman to be his wife. But wait, a dark doubt starts to creep in. Is there a conspiracy hidden behind this suspiciously easy wealth? Because one day, it's going to trigger pure chaos. This new world isn't all sunshine either. In the Forbidden Peaks, a bone-chilling wind howls alongside mysterious ice that's literally as hard as iron. Millennia-old snowstorms bury the eastern range in a frozen hell. These are dark, merciless times, and the common folk are living in absolute misery. Amidst all this suffering, the high-end mighty nobility treat killing like it's just a game. It is the law of the jungle out here, the strong hunt the weak. The wall of power reigns supreme. In one of the major kingdoms, a street vendor is shouting his lungs out, peddling fresh, cheap oranges to anyone passing by. This vendor's name is Liam, and it's been a full month since he crossed over to this mysterious realm. He hasn't been idle, though. He's been making a killing by reselling goods between this world and Earth. The problem? He still doesn't have a roof over his head. It's finally time to find a permanent place to stay. Liam walks into a local establishment and casually asks the attendant if she'd sell him the whole tavern. The girl is absolutely floored. Liam repeats the request, but she's convinced she's dealing with a total lunatic who wants to buy a shop in a ghost town. Liam, however, has a plan. He needs a base of operations, and since this place is in the middle of nowhere, a well-run inn could be a total goldmine. He makes the offer again, but the girl just gets irritated. "It's not for sale," she snaps, clearly done with his nonsense. That's when he drops the bomb. He can pay a massive amount of cash. This immediately catches the attention of 2 men sitting at a back table. One of them stands up. Seeing Liam's clear purchasing power, he makes a wild suggestion. Why buy a dusty bar when you could buy an entire city? This definitely piques Liam's curiosity. The man introduces himself as Baron Sterling, and that's his son, Felix, standing right next to him. Liam is skeptical. He doesn't think this old noble looks bankrupt, so why on earth would he trade away his family inheritance like it's trash? The Baron takes a deep, heavy breath, touching on a delicate subject. He explains that he's just getting too old for this life. Besides, according to him, the young people of this generation are nothing but a disappointment. He's ready to wash his hands of the whole thing. He wants to sell his domain so he can move to the big city, retire in luxury, and forget this place ever existed. But Liam smells a rat. He's suspicious that this old fox is just mocking him. So he plays along and asks the Baron exactly how much he wants for the city. With a greedy, happy grin, Sterling says he wants 100 gold coins. Liam just stares at him. Is this old man completely out of his mind? Look at the math. 100 gold coins is equivalent to 4 million sheep or 500,000 cattle. It's a literal fortune. That kind of money means financial comfort for 3 whole generations. Liam is certain he's being played. He's no rookie when it comes to business. Sterling senses the hesitation and asks if the price is too high. He even offers to throw in a noble title with the territory to sweeten the deal. Liam still refuses, and that's when things get tense. A cold blade suddenly presses against Liam's neck, a very clear, very sharp threat. It's the Baron's son, Felix. He growls that Liam should feel honored that his father is even willing to sell him the city. Liam asks the obvious question, "Am I being forced to buy this?" Sterling quickly intervenes, playing the peacemaker and asking for a little harmony. The Baron backtracks, saying if it's about the price, they can negotiate. He asks Liam what he thinks is a fair amount for the land. Liam tells him to forget that insane 100 gold figure, stating he doesn't even have 30 gold coins on him right now. To his utter shock, the old man agrees instantly. 30 gold coins for the whole territory, deal closed. Liam is left standing there, completely stunned. It hits him. The Baron was probably willing to settle for 30 coins from the very beginning. He got played by the old fox. The Baron's logic. He claims that when he looked at Liam's face, he felt like giving him a special discount. Yeah, right. Liam explains he didn't bring that kind of cash with him, but Sterling doesn't miss a beat. He says the debt can be paid with some of Liam's treasures. Liam is confused for a second, but then the suspense breaks. Sterling admits he's interested in those crystal cups, and suddenly it all makes sense. To justify his weird logic, the old man claims that one look at Leo's face made him want to offer a massive discount. The merchant plays along, admitting he didn't bring a single coin, but Lord Sterling doesn't miss a beat. He'll take payment in treasures. Leo's head is spinning, but the mystery doesn't last long because the Baron's eyes are glued to the crystal cups. Without any hesitation, Sterling starts drooling over the glasswork, and that's when the light bulb finally goes off for our hero. This whole trade was just an elaborate play to get those cups, so Leo decides to lean into the drama. He starts spinning a legendary yarn, claiming these 5 cups traveled across vast oceans and thousands of miles just to reach this land. He paints a picture of a legendary, distant shop in the West called the General Store, where these rare artifacts were supposedly sourced. In reality, they cost 10 pence at a discount shop, but Leo hypes them up like they're worth a king's ransom to drive the price through the roof. Lord Sterling is completely hooked, mentioning he once saw a crystal cup in the Duke's palace, but even that was garbage compared to these. Leo can barely believe his luck. These people are so easily scammed by basic modern glassware. It's actually kind of insane. While the two nobles stare at the divine invention in awe, our hero realizes he's basically holding a cheat code to wealth. He kicks himself for not bringing a whole crate of them, but hey, he can hop between worlds whenever he feels like it anyway. Seeing the Baron's greedy eyes, Leo's survival instincts start screaming when the old man asks if there are more treasures like this. He knows exactly what this bastard is thinking. If Leo has more, they'll probably just kill him and take the lot. Time for a change of plans. Since a cheap cup is a treasure here, Leo decides to show them his magical storage space. But first, he's gotta be smart. He clears out anything actually valuable from the modern world before letting the Baron take a peek. Sterling is practically vibrating with excitement as the chest is opened, expecting a mountain of gold and jewels. Leo shows off a few mundane items, acting all casual, and asks if the Baron sees anything he likes. The old man's face falls, complete and utter disappointment. He mutters that he's not interested in any of that junk for now. "A pity," Leo says, hiding a smirk. Soon after, they're galloping down a sun-drenched road through the countryside toward his new life. They pass through massive wheat fields near the city of Kingsbridge, and Leo notices the crops are actually looking pretty healthy. Sterling agrees, but warns him to stay sharp. Horse thieves always crawl out of the woodwork during the autumn harvest to steal the grain. After hours of riding, they finally crest a hill and Kingsbridge comes into view, sending a surge of excitement through our hero. But the Baron quickly ruins the mood, pointing out that the real city isn't that nice developed one in the distance. No, the actual city of Kingsbridge is a complete disaster, a crumbling, miserable ruin that looks like a total nightmare. Leo honestly wants to cry. He should have known. It was too good to be true. A city for that price, total scam. Even if money started falling from the sky, there's no way he could afford to fix this massive, broken-down mess. As they walk through the gates, the poverty hits him like a brick, starving people everywhere, begging for just a scrap of food. They head straight for the top of the local cathedral to announce the change in leadership to the desperate crowd below. The citizens gather, whispering in fear about whether they're being drafted or if another government leech is about to bleed them dry. Lord Stirling shouts to the masses, announcing that as of today, he's handing over the title of Lord to Leo. The locals aren't cheering. One guy just prays the taxes don't go up, while another is convinced Leo is just another parasite. With the announcement done, Stirling basically says good luck and gets ready to leave Leo to his fate. Leo steps up, ready to give a grand, inspiring speech to his new people, but he doesn't even get a word out. The crowd turns ugly instantly, screaming at him to get out and calling him a blood-sucking parasite who's already stolen enough. It turns into a full-blown riot. They start chanting down with the leeches, and the first stones start flying toward his head. Leo ducks, realizing the Baron basically sold him a death sentence for a few shiny cups. Talk about a bad deal. Later, Stirling mentions the place is injured, and that a monster has been starving the city for over a week. He demands to know why his men haven't killed the beast yet, considering how many soldiers he has stationed there. One of his knights reports that the monster is way too strong for them to handle, which sends the Baron into a literal rage. But then a nasty smile creeps across Stirling's face. He calls over the new lord and mentions he left a secret gift in the dungeon. Leo's curiosity is piqued, but then the Baron warns him he better hurry up and check on it before it demolishes the whole castle. Despair hits Leo like a freight train. His castle, destroyed, before he even gets to sleep in a proper bed. He doesn't wait for another word. He sprints toward the dungeon at full speed, heart hammering against his ribs. He's absolutely terrified of what kind of gift is waiting for him down there, but he's gotta save his property. Deep in the bowels of the fortress, our hero steps into the damp dark of the dungeon. Torches flicker against the stone. Rats scurry everywhere. What kind of gift did Baron Alistair leave for him here? Leon calls out into the shadows. Anyone there? Silence. He leans in close to inspect the iron gate's lock. But wait, the stone groans, years of neglect. The wall begins to buckle and crack. The whole structure is coming down. Leon dives hard to the left, then rolls right, narrowly escaping a crushing end. Finally, Lord Leo was gloating about his narrow escape from certain doom, but while he was busy patting his own back. Bang! The heavy iron gate slammed right onto the poor boy's foot. A blood-curdling scream echoed as Leo began to wail. He sobbed, cursing the absolute hellish agony he was feeling, when suddenly, something caught our hero's eye. The pain vanished instantly. Right there in front of him was a demi-human, the first one the young lord had ever seen. He realized these creatures actually existed in this world. Leo shook off the shock, approaching the girl to see if she was alive. This must be that gift Baron Carter mentioned. Our hero knew he couldn't just stand there and let her die in the dirt. He focused his mana, conjuring a glowing rift in space-time. A blue portal shimmered, opening a path to his secret stash of supplies. He began rummaging through a mountain of food, desperate to find something that could bring this dying girl back to life. She was dangerously weak. Leo dug through his crates for energy drinks, but then he spotted something much more vital. A bottle of fresh water. He grabbed it quickly and poured it down her throat. Within seconds, the girl's eyes shot open. She coughed, spitting the water directly into the hero's face and blinding him. Talk about a thank you gift. Wham! A knee to the face sent him reeling. As his vision blurred, Leo wondered how his act of kindness went so wrong. Mina wasn't done. She lunged, bouncing off the walls with feral speed before diving at the protagonist with a terrifying roar. Leo did the only logical thing. He screamed for help. In his mind, every memory of his short life flashed before him. He couldn't die yet. He hadn't even found a wealthy, beautiful noblewoman to marry. His dream life was at stake here. But just as she was about to strike, she collapsed into his arms. Leo breathed a massive sigh of relief. Saved. Later, back at the castle, Leo's dramatic complaints could be heard for miles. There she was, resting in his own bed. She was a stunning beast woman named Mina. Leo wondered why on earth Baron Carter had her locked in a dungeon. Suddenly, her stomach growled loud enough to shake the room. The hero finally realized what was really going on here. The Baron's words made sense now. She had fainted from pure hunger. Leo opened his spatial storage to find some rice. He decided to cook her a warm porridge. But then, a loose scrap of paper flew out of the portal by mistake. The wind carried the parchment out of the castle, drifting over the city until it met its destiny on an old man's head. The elderly citizen grumbled, picking up the paper, but when he took a look at what was written, his jaw dropped. He was stunned. He immediately started shouting to the crowd, asking everyone to come and see this incredible discovery. Back at the castle, the porridge was ready. Leo was careful, blowing on the spoon to make sure it wasn't too hot. He gently fed the unconscious beast woman. In her sleep, she caught the scent. It smelled like home, like rice porridge. The warmth started to bring her back. Her mind raced, wondering if this was real or just some cruel human trick. With a sudden burst of energy, Mina snapped awake. She bolted upright, looking like she was ready for another fight. Then she saw him, the same annoying human who had disturbed her peace in the dungeon. Her eyes narrowed instantly. She pounced on the hero, aggressively demanding to know exactly what kind of strange food he had just forced her to eat. "It's just porridge, I swear," Leo stammered. Mina's gaze shifted to the bowl, her nostrils flaring at the mouth-watering scent. It looked like normal rice, and holy hell, it smelled amazing, but she struggled to keep her guard up against him. She hated humans. They were the ones who captured her. How could one of them be showing her any kindness? Her stomach growled again, louder this time. Fine. She ordered the hero to take a bite first, just in case it was poison. Leo did it without hesitation. Then she demanded a second, much bigger spoonful. Our boy just went with the flow. He kept eating, figuring she'd eventually give in. If she wanted him dead, she had plenty of chances already, right? The standoff continued for a while, but there was nothing wrong with the food. It was just pure, delicious comfort. Finally, Mina broke. She demolished the food, eating enough rice to feed a normal person for an entire month. With her belly full, she was in a daze. Was she actually starting to admire a human? No, she shook the thought away. Maintaining her angry facade, she barked at Leo to let her go at once or she'd end his life right there. Leo was just annoyed she ate all his rice and then demanded to leave. "The door's right there," he said, pointing. She prepared to walk out, but Leo called after her. He told her to be careful out there on her journey. "Don't get caught by Carter again," he warned, "or any other idiots." Mina froze. This noble was actually different. She looked away, feeling a bit embarrassed. A flicker of something new was starting to grow within her heart. But at that moment, she hears a noise outside the castle that terrifies her and leaves her frozen in place. She lunges at the young lord, screaming that he's a scoundrel and that an ambush is waiting just outside the castle doors. Alaric doesn't flinch. He tells her he's the only soul in this entire fortress. No knights, no traps, so she should really stop trying to kill him. Just then, boom, a riot erupts outside. Civilians are roaring at the parasites inside, demanding they open the gates immediately. Lady Alara glares, claiming her suspicions were right all along, but our protagonist is genuinely baffled by the chaos unfolding. The gates give way. The thundering mob floods the castle, getting closer and closer to the Great Hall with every passing second. Cries for a bloody revolution echo through the stone halls, calling for the strength to finally put an end to the noble leeches. The mob reaches the Baron's quarters and starts battering the door with a massive log. Alaric turns to the girl. "Hide. Now, these aren't my men." Alara hesitates, but Alaric's eyes are cold. "If I wanted you dead, you'd be a corpse already." She finally takes him seriously. Crack, the wood splinters. The rebel group storms in, and their leader points a shaking finger directly at the lord of the land. "Don't let him slip away," he barks. They surround the protagonist in an instant, rusted blades and pitchforks gleaming in the torchlight. One man steps forward, voice trembling with rage. He asks what the Lord is doing, shouting that they've already been bled dry. Silas demands to know why the Baron is squeezing them for even more taxes when they have nothing left to give but their lives. Alaric stands his ground. "Taxes? I haven't ordered a single extra copper from any of you," he responds, completely serious. In response, the old man shoves a crumpled scroll right into his face. "Then explain this. Your seal is right there." Alaric's heart sinks. He remembers selling a batch of fake straw paper, parchments, to the old Baron weeks ago. This was his own scam. He questions if this is actually vellum and realizes the truth. If anyone wanted to frame him, this fake paper was the perfect tool. The villagers take his silence as guilt. One man breaks down, sobbing that his own brother just died of starvation because of these taxes. They call him a demon in human skin. Meanwhile, Alaric is just stuck thinking about the paper he sold, trying to connect the dots. It's a breaking point. If the Lord won't let the people live in peace, then the people won't let him live at all. "Death to the Baron!" The order is given, and one man lunges forward, a blade aimed straight for the protagonist's heart. But then, clang. A stone flies from the shadows, hitting the dagger with such force that it's knocked right out of the man's hand. Alara steps out, blocking the path. She stares down the attacker, telling the boy to keep his hands off the Lord. "Who are you?" they demand. She stands tall. "Kill a noble and every one of you and your families will swing from the gallows." Reality hits. One man stops, realizing she's right. Another mutters that he doesn't fear death, but he won't damn his wife and daughters. Alaric just stares at her. He told the girl to hide, so why the hell is she standing there playing hero now? Alara asks if the Lord is all right. He nods, even with a dagger vibrating in the wall right next to his head, and she actually laughs. Silas is still fuming. He yells that increasing taxes by 50% is nothing less than a slow, agonizing death sentence for everyone. Alaric finally grabs the paper to see for himself, and wow, it's actually worse than he thought, much worse. The decree says that to celebrate the Lord's favorite horse's birthday, taxes are going up by 50%. It's absolutely insane. Realizing he's the fall guy, Alaric explains that this decree was issued by Lord Blackwood, the man who held the title before him. The crowd is confused. They start whispering amongst themselves, though the youngest rebels still think it's all one big noble lie. But Alaric raises his voice. "As the current Lord of Ashbury, I declare here and now, your taxes will never be increased again." Shock ripples through the room. They don't trust a noble's word, but then they watch him tear the decree into tiny pieces. Tearing that paper means they might actually have food on the table. The anger in the room starts to melt into pure relief. Alaric begins his speech. "A lord is only truly happy when his citizens are thriving. That is the only way this works." He promises to guide them toward wealth and build an era of prosperity that Ashbury has never seen before. "But," he warns, "to get there, we're all going to have to roll up our sleeves. There's a lot of heavy lifting ahead." The civilians don't fully get the plan, but they love the energy. Silas bows low, thanking him for this sudden act of mercy. Alaric doubles down. He prides himself on his word and tells them he's not the type of man to ever go back on it. The mob finally clears out, praying that their new lord is telling the truth, because for them, he's their last hope. Meanwhile, in a far-off manner, a messenger tells his father that the city of Ashbury has officially fallen into total ruin. Absolute chaos. Witnessing the narrow escape, Barnaby can't help but offer his deepest thanks for the Lord's unexpected grace. Leon stands tall. "I never go back on my word," he declares with ironclad pride. The crowd is starting to believe. They disperse for now. Everyone is praying the city lord is telling the truth, because if he is, it's their only shot at survival. Elsewhere, Felix delivers a grim report to his father. The city of Silverstone, it's already fallen into complete and utter ruin. A mob of villagers was swarming the manor, but Lord Carter didn't even flinch. He just laughed, mocking the new hero for being too weak to keep a few peasants in line. His son, Felix, was practically glowing with joy. To him, this failure was a sign. It meant the city of Oakhaven would be back in their family's hands before they knew it. But just as they were celebrating, the doors burst open with a disaster. The news, absolutely unexpected. The messenger looked like he'd seen a ghost as he delivered the report. Felix demanded to know what was wrong, and the servant could barely speak. Apparently, 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 hadn't just stopped the riot, he'd actually convinced the whole city to follow him. Even worse, he'd officially set the cat girl free. Felix went absolutely ballistic, screaming that he'd kill that bastard himself for ruining their plans and stealing their property. Carter told his son to cool it, but Felix wasn't having it. They'd spent a fortune on that demi-human slave. To him, seeing that gold just walk away was pure agony. "Relax," Carter smirked. He wasn't worried. Sure, 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 is the Lord for now, but the old man knew something the boy didn't. He was playing a much longer game. He promised that Duke Sterling would straighten things out naturally. 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 was walking into a trap, and Felix was suddenly back to being impressed by his father's sheer genius. Meanwhile, back at the manor, 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 was wiped out. That mob almost gave him a heart attack, but he'd survived. Now, he just wanted one thing, a massive nap. He was just drifting off when Selina announced she was leaving. 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 bolted upright. "Wait, you're not healed yet." He told her leaving now was a death sentence. "You'd be captured in a heartbeat," he warned. Selina wasn't impressed. She bared her claws, growling that she'd just slaughter anyone who tried to touch her. Classic warrior energy. 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 tried a different approach. "Just stay until you've recovered. I won't hurt you, I promise." Selina hesitated. She'd spent her life learning that humans were nothing but monsters. "Look," 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 admitted, "it's boring being the only person in this giant castle. Stay, keep me company, we can talk." He even asked if she was actually afraid of him. She laughed at that. Afraid? Please. He didn't have half the strength needed to even scratch her, so she agreed to stay, starting with a trip to the hot springs. The water was incredible, pure peace. It had been years since she felt this clean. But then, a sharp pain in her shoulder ruined the moment, a reminder of the past. She remembered the soldiers who kindly fed her bread when she was starving. It was a trap. The bread was drugged, and they sold her into slavery the second she fell asleep. To her, all humans were just liars in fancy clothes. Despicable. But while she was drowning in her rage, 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 was, well, he was being a bit of a creep. He was outside the door, trying to convince himself his curiosity was scientific. Yeah, right. He was peeking through the crack, and the sight of her was intense. Suddenly, bam, a massive nosebleed. He made a noise, and Selina froze. "Who's there?" she snapped. 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 panicked and threw a bar of soap into the room like a grenade. "Just brought you something to wash with," he yelled. Selina picked it up, surprised. It smelled clean. For a second, it almost felt like she belonged there. Later, 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 was back in his study, pretending to be the world's busiest worker. Then Selina walked in, looking a bit shy because her new clothes didn't fit right. 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅's brain basically short-circuited. A freshly bathed cat girl standing right there. This was definitely better than his old world, but his staring didn't go unnoticed. "What are you looking at?" she asked, eyes narrowing with suspicion. 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 pivoted instantly, offering her a bowl of rice porridge he'd prepared just for her. She took it, but the walls were still up. "Humans are always plotting," she muttered. 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 just smiled, insisting he was different from the others she'd met. Selina smirked. "Oh, you're different all right. Most humans don't spy on women in the bath." Busted. 𝒆𝒅𝒄𝒅 realized he'd been caught red-handed. His reputation was officially in the gutter. He was internally screaming, thinking he'd have to flee the city, but Selina was more interested in the food. She finished the bowl and gave him a grim warning. "Pack your bags, human." She told him he wouldn't want to be lord in 20 days. Why? Because the wild riders, the most brutal bandits around, were coming for the harvest. When those killers arrive to loot the grain, they won't just take the food. They'll leave nothing but ashes and bodies behind. The real fight was just beginning. But then a distraction. A stunning 𝒆𝒊𝒆𝒗𝒂𝒍 girl catches Leon's eye, one look at her beauty and, boom, total nosebleed from the hype. He makes a sound, she hears it. "Who's there?" Leon fumbles for an excuse. He says he's just here to bring her washing supplies. He tosses a bar of fine soap through the door. She catches it, blinking in surprise. The girl takes a sniff. It smells sweet, just like a human, a scent far better than the wild she's used to. Later, Leon is back in his study, pretending to be buried in paperwork. Then Mia enters, fresh from the bath. She's blushing hard. These clothes, they don't fit her right at all. Leon's heart is absolutely hammering against his ribs. A freshly bathed beastkin girl right in front of him. In his old world, this was a fantasy. Now, it's his reality. His gaze lingers a little too long. Mia catches him. "What exactly are you staring at, human?" Busted. Panic mode. Leon quickly switches gears. He offers her a bowl of hot barley pottage he prepared just for his guest. She looks at the food, tempted, but her guard is up. She thanks him, but she's still waiting for the trap. "Humans always have a scheme," she mutters, taking the bowl. Leon just shakes his head. "I'm not like the rest." Mia narrows her eyes. "Oh, you're different all right. Most humans don't peep on girls while they're washing up." Dead silence. He's been caught red-handed. If word of this gets out, his reputation in the city is finished. But Mia, she seems more interested in the pottage than the scandal. She takes a bite and sighs. Then she drops a warning. "Pack your bags, human. You won't want to be lord of this place for much longer." Here's the nightmare. The Marauders, a vicious gang of bandits. They'll be at the gates in exactly 20 days. They're coming for the autumn harvest. They'll loot every grain and slaughter anyone who tries to stop them. So the invaders took the castle and styled themselves as the new lords of the land. According to Alina, our hero is in deep trouble. She points out that Leo doesn't have a single soldier to his name. He isn't running, which makes it look like he's just waiting for the Reaper. It finally clicks for him. That's why Baron Carter ditched the city and sold his title so cheaply. He was passing off a death warrant. Alina is totally over it. She's ready to head south, or maybe just stay and watch the local humans tear each other to pieces. Our protagonist doesn't seem rattled, though. He asks if she's actually afraid of a few low-life bandits. She scoffs. Even the goddess of frost doesn't scare her, but Leo, he's never even heard of the deity, which leaves him totally lost. Alina explains that this goddess is the reason the world turned into a frozen nightmare 5 years ago. Apparently, the goddess of frost snapped, unleashing a blizzard that lasted 5 long years and buried everything in white. The freezing winds blew until the world was nothing but ice, stretching further than any man could see. Everyone had to flee south, and even today, many kingdoms are still completely cut off by the eternal snow. Alina is baffled. How could a lord be this clueless? Leo awkwardly claims he was traveling the Eastern Isles during the Big Freeze. She's suspicious but lets it slide, giving him one last warning. Run now or die with your city. But Leo, he's got ice in his veins. He notes there's still 2 weeks until the autumn harvest and tells her not to sweat it. He's got a plan, a secret way of handling things that he's clearly very proud of. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, a massive tiger is hunting a boy named Silas. Does Silas look worried? Not even a little. He's actually taunting the beast. He tells the tiger to keep up, acting completely confident in his own agility. The tiger lunges with everything it's got, chasing the boy right toward a massive wooden barricade. Silas clears it in one smooth leap, mocking the predator from the top like it's just a frustrated house cat. "Fun's over, kitty," he says. High above on a ridge, a man armed with a trident signals the rest of the crew. It's hunting season. The Thorn family, Uncle Magnus, Silas, and the rest, emerge from the brush, fully armed and ready. The tiger realizes it walked into a trap, but it's way too late to prey. The hunters move in for the kill. With the beast down, the hunt is a success. They pack up their congratulatory gift and head toward the city gates. As they roll into the capital of Kingsford, the commoners can't believe their eyes. The Thorn family is back. People remember them. They were the ones who refused to join Baron Carter's army and disappeared into the wilds. No one knows why they're here, but a guy named Bafu realizes they're heading straight for Lord Leo's manor. A local brat scoffs at the idea. He says there's no way a young noble could recruit the legendary Thorn family. The word on the street is that Uncle Magnus would never help a blood-sucking aristocrat like the new governor. Little do they know, inside the carriage, Aunt Martha is actually praising Leo for being such a thoughtful lad. She's touched that he reached out to invite them after becoming a noble, proving he hasn't forgotten his roots. And Nicole, she's practically vibrating with excitement, clearly head over heels and dying to see Leo again. Back at the castle, Leo is stoked. Seeing Uncle Magnus and Aunt Martha again is exactly what he needed. They drop the massive tiger carcass right in front of him, a little, housewarming gift for the new governor. Leo's eyes practically turn into gold coins. 500 pounds of prime tiger. That's going to make a legendary fur coat. He tries to act humble, saying their visit was enough, but Alina just rolls her eyes at the obvious act. Aunt Martha notices Nicole being shy and nudges her to go say hello to our hero properly. She gives the poor girl a shove, and Nicole trips right over the tiger, falling straight into Leo's arms. Direct hit. The impact is, well, it's a lot, and Leo is definitely feeling the heat from the close contact. He blurts out that she's grown a lot since he last saw her, then immediately regrets how that sounded. Fortunately, Nicole is as innocent as they come and thinks he's just talking about her height. Aunt Martha just finds the whole thing hilarious. Time for business. Leo calls for a vow of loyalty from the family, but he notices Uncle Magnus holding back. He knows why. He tells Magnus he wants him to be the castle's chief administrator, the top dog of his staff. Magnus is honored, but looks down at his broken leg with regret. He thinks he's just a burden who can't serve a king. Leo just smiles and snaps his fingers. "Don't worry about the leg, Uncle. I've got a way to fix that." The room goes silent. He promises he can make Magnus a whole man again, shocking everyone in the room. After working some magic on the injury, Leo tells Magnus to stand up and take a step. The anticipation is unreal. No time was wasted. Lord Alaric, though nervous, finally braced himself. This was his true moment of truth. He stood firm on that mechanical leg, testing the prototype. He took a few shaky steps across the hall, leaving his family completely overwhelmed. "I can walk," he breathed. Lady Margaret just lost it, tears streaming down her face because this was a total miracle. Nicole, trying to lighten the mood, whispered that her mother's makeup was running. Just like that, the heavy atmosphere shattered into joy. You could practically feel the happiness radiating through the entire room. But then, Arthur stepped in to ground the conversation. He told his uncle to keep practicing daily. Soon enough, there wouldn't be any difference between him and anyone else. Margaret wiped her eyes, looking at Arthur with newfound respect. The two shared a look of pure, unshakable determination. Then the entire family started marching toward our protagonist. Arthur just stood there, looking totally confused by their sudden movement. Every man in the household stood tall before young Lord Arthur. They presented themselves not as kin, but as his loyal soldiers. They pledged to be the sharp blades that would pierce any enemy. Arthur was stunned, but he accepted their loyalty with a nod. He thanked his uncle for the trust and officially put him in charge of the castle. A massive responsibility, for sure. Arthur even asked for lessons on how to rule the city. Meanwhile, a dark letter from Baron Blackwood reached the capital. The Baron's twisted plot against the city of Westhaven was officially in motion. Things were about to get very ugly. Deep in the city market, a man was losing his mind. He was screaming at a merchant, absolutely livid at the scene. Grain prices had jumped to 3 coppers overnight. The guy was furious, remembering it was only 2 coppers just yesterday. The merchant just shrugged it off, classic greed. "Yesterday is gone, kid. Today you pay up." Talk about a scam artist. He pressured the boy to either buy the grain or get lost. He didn't care about the struggling people at all. The boy felt trapped, while the merchant smirked. He knew these high prices were all part of Baron Blackwood's secret orders. But then bong, a massive bell echoed through the entire district. Everyone scrambled toward the town square to see the commotion. Word spread like wildfire. The palace was giving away food for free. The boy's eyes widened, and he immediately rebelled against the merchant. "Keep your trash," he yelled. The merchant just stood there, frozen. Free food. In this kingdom, he couldn't wrap his head around it. Sir Marcus stepped up, his voice booming over the crowd. He wasn't just there for food, he had an even bigger announcement. The palace was recruiting clerks, scouts, and heavy lifters. And the benefits, better than anything they'd ever seen before. "We are talking 120 coppers for clerks and 80 for the rest. Monthly." The crowd went absolutely silent. People started whispering. "It's a lie," they said. No noble in history had ever been this generous to the common folk. This pay was double what the old lord offered. Surely, there had to be a catch. Everyone was convinced it was a trap. That's when Lord Arthur stepped out into the crowd. He looked them in the eye and promised his word was his bond. The crowd gasped. He looked like something out of a legend, radiating authority and pure, unadulterated class. The local girls were basically swooning on the spot. I mean, look at him. The guy was absolute leading man material. People were staring at his clothes, too. Nobody had ever seen a style like that before. It was completely revolutionary. Even the beastkin maid at his side looked more elegant than most ladies. The style was just on another level entirely. Arthur walked over to Sir Marcus, ready to take the lead. Marcus nodded, stepping aside for the true master of the city. Arthur addressed the crowd, confirming every single word on that announcement. He wasn't playing any games with them. But there was one condition. They had to pass a test. Pass, and you get the gold and a seat at the feast. The smell of cooking meat started drifting through the square. It was heavenly, all you can eat for anyone who actually made the cut. "Is that roast boar?" someone whispered. The food was ready in bowls, and the aroma was enough to make anyone crumble. The scent was intoxicating. One by one, the commoners decided to take the risk. I mean, why not? They had nothing left. Even that angry boy from the market was tempted, though he still grumbled about it. His starving stomach, however, disagreed. Arthur sat down with his inner circle, looking over the first batch of applicants. "All right," he said. "Who is up first?" A young man named Barnaby stepped forward, clutching his staff. He wanted that clerk position more than anything in the world. He handed over a sample of his work. It wasn't just paperwork. It was a moving letter about the Lord's grand vision. Arthur read through it, impressed. The kid didn't just have good handwriting. He actually gave a damn about the common people. "You're hired," Arthur declared. Nicole immediately brought over a steaming bowl of noodle soup and some stunning roast pork. The dish looked like a work of art. Arthur couldn't resist. He grabbed the plate and dove right in to taste it. He took one bite, and his eyes practically popped out of his head. His whole expression shifted in a single second. Things were going sideways fast. The crowd was absolutely stunned because what they saw didn't match the rumors at all. "Poison!" someone shouted. The boy, thinking it was a deadly trap, drew his sword and lunged forward to save the old man. But wait, he was completely wrong. The elder wasn't dying. His face was twisted because the food was just that good. Our hero stopped mid-swing as old Barnaby started sobbing. Turns out, he'd never tasted anything so incredible in his entire life. He felt like he'd wasted his whole existence eating garbage until now. The boy just sighed and gave him a piece of his mind. If the stew was really that legendary, the rest of the villagers wanted in. Suddenly, everyone was lining up to join the ranks. The smart ones went for scribe jobs, while the tough ones headed for the knight's trials. Lord Arthur stood before the recruits. He laid out the rules: finish the balance beam, clear the wooden walls, and crawl through the spiked iron wires. Then you scale the high stone wall. Seeing the challenge, even the local troublemaker decided he had to give it a shot. Watching the chaos from the balcony, Arthur felt pretty good about his plan. He didn't expect this much hype, honestly. He turned to Nicola and patted her head, telling her she did an amazing job setting this all up. Nicola just blushed, being all humble and saying she only knew what to do because her master taught her so well. Then Arthur spotted Muriel and tried to give the half-elf a thank you pat too. Bad move. She wasn't having it. She dodged him and vanished, leaving the hero staring at his empty hand, wishing he'd touched those ears. Nicola watched her leave, wondering what that girl's deal was. She seemed dangerous, but Arthur didn't seem to notice at all. Down on the field, the recruits were dying, but they kept pushing, fueled by the thought of hot beef stew and roast pork. It was brutal. One guy lost his footing and was dragged off the field before he could even blink. Another poor soul got his tunic shredded on the spiked wires. Boom, eliminated, just like that. By the time they reached the wall climb, even the strongest men were falling off. The numbers were dropping fast. Niall, Arthur's apprentice, was baffled. He'd been training since he was a kid, and even he thought the course was insane. For normal villagers, it was a nightmare. They were quitting left and right, exhausted and covered in bruises. Niall worried they wouldn't have a single soldier left. Meanwhile, Arthur was in his study reading the legendary king's strategy. He couldn't believe the failure rate was so high. Then Nicola popped in with some afternoon tea and a slice of chocolate cake. He thanked her and took a bite. Man, it hit the spot. Soft, sweet, and perfectly light. He praised her cooking to the heavens, and you could see her just glowing with pride. She was over the moon. But then, an uninvited guest. Muriel basically teleported into the room and snatched a piece of cake right off the plate. Nicola was fuming. She'd spent all morning baking that specifically for Lord Arthur, and now the half-elf was inhaling it. The cozy vibe didn't last long, though. A messenger burst in with some seriously heavy news. People were packing their bags and deserting the city of Oakhaven because they were starving to death. Arthur set his coffee down, his face going cold. He asked his secretary what the hell was going on in his streets. Barnaby explained the mess. If you fail the night's test, you don't get the free rations. It gets worse, though. The local trade barons hiked food prices by 30%. People are literally collapsing in the dirt from hunger. Niall suggested they should probably lower the recruitment standards, but Muriel just laughed in his face. She mocked them, saying if humans can't finish a simple run, they're just pathetic. Niall was ready to blow a fuse. Arthur stepped in and shut it down. The standards stay exactly where they are, no exceptions. But those greedy merchants, oh, they were about to have a very bad day. Arthur headed straight for the market. The trade baron greeted him with a fake smile, asking what the lord of the city wanted with a humble merchant. Arthur didn't play games. He asked if this was the guy responsible for the 30% price jump. He was so pissed he tried to deck the guy right then and there. A total eat dirt moment for the monopolist. But the kick did absolutely nothing. Either Arthur's got no muscle, or that merchant was built like a brick wall. The baron just smirked. I have the food, they want the food. If it's too pricey, they can just starve. He actually asked what the problem was. Cold. Arthur's expression shifted, and he reached for Niall's sword. He unsheathed the steel and pressed the cold edge right against the merchant's throat. Talk about a power move. How dare you rob my people, he hissed. The merchant started sweating but tried to play the legal card. He claimed the law let him set whatever price he wanted. He actually had the nerve to question the Lord's authority. Leon considers bypassing the trade laws to save his people. His secretary confirms it. The situation is desperate. The merchant starts whining, acting like a victim. We're just honest food traders, he cries, such a bold-faced lie. In his head, he's laughing. He has Earl Warwick as an ally. He doesn't need to listen to a pup like Lord Leon. Leon is absolutely fuming. This merchant is a parasite, but he knows he can't win this fight with words today. The price stays high. Fine, Leon stares him down. When the time comes, make sure you don't regret this. The merchant just chuckles. Regret? We set our prices and we keep them. That's just business, boy. Leon storms out with his men. One last warning. Soon, you'll get exactly what you deserve. Out in the streets, the people are losing hope. The price of raw wheat has spiked again. Refined flour, unattainable. If this keeps up, the whole city will starve before the autumn scythes even hit the fields. These greedy merchants always do this. They squeeze every copper out of the poor right before the harvest begins. But then, a glimmer of hope. Barnaby posts a new decree on the town square notice board. A massive renovation campaign. The city needs masons, smiths, and laborers to rebuild the crumbling houses. The citizens can't believe their eyes. Is this for real? They actually need this many workers. Barnaby clears his throat and assures them, "It's true, and if you want a job, you start right now." That's all the proof they need. The people believe in the plan and sign up in massive numbers. The blueprints are complex, way over their heads at first, but slowly they start to figure it out. Neighbors helping neighbors, Silverstone is coming back to life, and then it's time for the food line. Everyone is ecstatic, real, hot, filling food, not the scraps they've been forced to eat for years. On the other side of town, the merchants are sweating. No one has bought their overpriced grain in days. One of them snarls, wishing death on the commoners, but their leader tells them to shut it. They're underestimating Leon. Word reaches the greedy trade guild that the new duke is handing out rations for free, which would usually tank their profits. But the lead merchant, Baron 𝒉𝒂𝒅, just laughs it off, claiming the duke's personal stores won't last more than 3 days at this rate. Suddenly, everyone who previously thought Duke 𝒆𝒅𝒊 was some kind of savior now thinks he's a total amateur, digging his own grave. The red-haired merchant smirks, confident that no matter what the duke plans, it won't matter once the famine truly hits. They're convinced they'll soon be sitting on a mountain of gold, and just like that, the tension in the room vanishes. Their worry is replaced by a wicked, hungry hope, while back at the manor, our protagonist is buried under mountains of paperwork. Lady Alara approaches him, catching his attention, and the duke actually manages to carve out a few minutes of his busy day for her. Alara admits it's wonderful to see the citizens rebuilding their homes with full bellies, but she's worried. The grain silos are nearly empty. Back at the construction site, the mood is high after everyone received a full kilo of wheat yesterday, but today is a different story. As the line moves forward, the people realize the portions have been slashed, and a worried citizen confronts the steward about the shortage. The steward admits the grain is gone, but insists he's already alerted the duke, who is currently working day and night to fix it. High up on the castle ramparts, 𝒆𝒅𝒊 stares out at the horizon while Alara watches him with a heavy heart. It's an undeniable fact. The granaries are bone dry, and they won't be able to feed the people tomorrow, but the duke remains steady. He looks her in the eye and promises he'll find a way, even as the workers below begin to riot over their growling stomachs. Hunger turns to fury as the people complain about the starvation they're facing, and that's exactly when the merchants launch their trap. Executing their little drama, Baron 𝒉𝒂𝒅 steps forward with a fake pout, asking if the duke is planning to break their trade contract. He mockingly calls for Steward Cedric to hurry up with the food, loudly questioning why the distribution lines have suddenly ground to a halt. He gestures to the desperate crowd holding their empty bowls, making sure every hungry person hears him loud and clear. Cedric looks absolutely humiliated because he can't exactly admit the duke is broke, so the merchant does the honors and shouts it out. He deduces that there's no more food left, which is like throwing a match into a powder keg for the helpless, starving population. Cedric begs everyone to stay calm and wait just a little longer, swearing that more rations are on the way, but the merchants aren't finished. 𝒉𝒂𝒅 sneers, asking if the duke has finally run out of grain, or if the great lord is simply facing some unforeseen difficulties. Another merchant chimes in, suggesting that if the duke is so desperate, he should just quit being stubborn and buy from them. They argue it should be done immediately, claiming it's a crime to send people away empty-handed when their families are starving. Mentioning the hungry children and elderly is the breaking point. The mob explodes in a blind fury, demanding their food right now. Darkness falls over the village, and the workers are beyond hangry. They realize they've been played. An entire day's labor, and not a single loaf of bread to show for it, deceived by the vultures. Elder 𝒉𝒂𝒅 has had enough of their whining. He levels his cane at the crowd, asking if they're actually planning a full-blown mutiny. Bad move. The mob snaps, understanding the challenge, and they're ready to tear the old man limb from limb. It's getting ugly, and Silas is seconds away from a beating until a roar shatters the chaos. Enough. Enter our Lord. He stares them down, demanding to know what the hell they think they're doing before the entire city. Finally, the Lord of Oakhaven is here to deal with this personally. He walks right into the heart of the riot with Seraphina at his side. Thorn, that greedy merchant, just sizes him up. Arthur doesn't flinch. Start trouble and don't bother coming back to work tomorrow. That hits them where it hurts. The terrifying thought of losing their only chance at a meal settles the crowd's psychology instantly. Silas finds his backbone again. Meanwhile, Thorn just smirks, commenting that the Lord arrived just in the nick of time. He asks when they should start delivering the grains, since everyone is apparently waiting for dinner. Arthur plays it cool. Wait just a little longer, he says. Big mistake. The crowd starts boiling over again. Thorn starts the waterworks, total drama king. Look at your people, my lord. After a hard day's work, they're starving. He points to the kids. Ignore the adults if you must, but how could you forget the children? He's laying it on thick, pretending he's the only one willing to risk everything for the sake of the little ones. He heroically orders his men to open the warehouse and start distributing the grain immediately. The crowd is totally swayed by his populist speech. Arthur sees the trap. This is exactly what the merchant wanted. If Thorn distributes now, he can charge whatever insane price he wants. Arthur asks if he honestly thinks people can afford this. Thorn scoffs, saying now isn't the time to worry about pennies. Then he whispers the truth, 21 copper coins per kilo. Absolute highway robbery, but he blames the long journey for the cost. Back to the acting. He loudly asks if gold is more important to the Lord than the people's hunger. It works. The workers buy the act and start cursing Arthur, wondering how they'll ever feed their families. Seraphina's heart sinks. Looking at the angry crowd, she's convinced there's absolutely nothing they can do now. With nightfall approaching, the big question remains. Will the Lord provide, or will he let them starve? The air is thick with tension. Every single person there is against him, and Thorn thinks he's already won. Thorn tells everyone to just leave, claiming their Lord doesn't give a damn about their struggles or their families' lives. That was the tipping point. The population has reached its absolute limit. They decide right then, if the Lord won't give them food, they'll take it by force, even if they have to invade the castle itself. The plan is set. The mob heads straight for the Lord's manor, ready to pillage the reserves. Arthur looks like he's panicking, and the fat merchant is loving every second, eager to humiliate the governor. The merchants are laughing, convinced their plan is perfect. But then, suddenly, someone points to the horizon. Dust clouds. It's Uncle Edward. He's leading a massive caravan, literal mountains of grain piled high on the carts. Arthur finally breathes again. Thorn, he looks like he's just seen a ghost. His profit margin just vanished into thin air. Sir Edward rides up, reporting that the task is complete. Arthur tells his uncle to stand tall. Edward explains that thanks to the young master's genius foresight, they left days early and beat the market. They got every single sack of grain requested. Arthur turns to Silas, ready to drop the hammer. He raises his hand like a true leader. Proceed with the distribution. Every single person gets fed. The crowd flips. Suddenly, Arthur is their hero and they're hoisting him up, shouting, "Long live the Lord." The merchants are speechless. Later that night, Arthur is out cold in his quarters, sleeping like a baby after the chaos. Suddenly, the door creaks open. Little Alina creeps in, totally mesmerized by the face of her prince. In her eyes, the Lord is the most handsome man in the entire world. She's blushing like crazy. She checks the room, nobody's watching. She thinks she can get away with one secret kiss. She leans in, but bam! Seraphina appears out of nowhere, killing the mood instantly. Alina jumps, swearing she was doing nothing. Startled, Alina asks why she's sneaking around so silently. Seraphina just shrugs. "I'm a human cat warrior. Stealth is what we do." The noise finally wakes our hero up. "What's going on, Alina?" our hero asks. She steps forward, stuttering through a clumsy excuse about bringing him his breakfast. 𝒆𝒅 knows she's hiding her true intentions, but when he sees the tray of food, he decides to play along and accepts the meal. He takes the glass of milk she prepared, but Sienna, the beast girl, immediately swipes one of his buns. Meanwhile, Margaret arrives with news. The reform plans for the Ashford training grounds are finally finished. Getting such good news so early in the morning, 𝒆𝒅 is thrilled. He calls Margaret his lucky charm, but she's not having it. She just tells him to hurry up because everyone is waiting. Our lead thinks her attitude is absolutely terrible. He honestly wonders why her beloved protects such a prickly girl so much. Before leaving, 𝒆𝒅 tells her he wants fried pork ribs for lunch. Margaret just nods and accepts the order without a word. Over at the Ashford training grounds, a massive crowd has gathered. The whole town is buzzing with anticipation. The peasants are whispering, asking if the food is actually free. One of them confirms it. The Lord always keeps his word. Looking down from the balcony, 𝒆𝒅 notes that these recruits were handpicked based on his very strict requirements. He addresses his future soldiers, explaining exactly why they failed the previous military entrance exams in the kingdom. It wasn't a lack of talent, it was a lack of proper food and training. But that's about to change. Everything here is free. Under the command of Sir Arthur, they'll be trained properly. This way, everyone gets a second chance during next month's trials. If they pass, they won't just get free food. They'll never have to pay a single copper in taxes for the rest of their lives. Free food for life and tax exemptions. The crowd loses it. A roar of "Long live the Lord" erupts from the people. Time to get to work. 𝒆𝒅, now in full military gear, blows his whistle to signal the start of the ceremony. He introduces the veteran instructors, who will be responsible for turning these raw recruits into a real fighting force. On his command, the crowd divides. Half go right, half go left. It's perfect organization from the very start. The groups are split up among their instructors, and the grueling training finally begins. But there's a problem. The results, not great. Most of them are performing way below average, leaving 𝒆𝒅 to give Sir Arthur a sympathetic look. Arthur isn't the sympathetic type, though. He's furious, screaming that anyone who doesn't finish the drills won't get any dinner tonight. Sienna finds the whole thing hilarious. It reminds her of her own training days with the old crew good times, honestly. Margaret gets a bit nostalgic, too. She looks up at the sky, wondering how her people back home are doing right now. Deep in a forest cave, the mood is much darker. A boy named Julian is fuming because his sister, Margaret, hasn't returned. He's convinced the humans captured her and begs his older sister to do something. But Beatrice, she's not interested. Beatrice thinks Margaret was reckless. She's worried that if they try a rescue mission, they'll all end up in human cages. Her priority is heading south to find more food. If they don't, everyone in this cave is going to starve to death. It's a logical move given their desperate situation, but Julian isn't hearing it. He won't leave without his sister. He's not alone, either. Other family members step up, refusing to abandon Margaret to the humans. Driven by rage, Julian decides to leave the group to hunt humans himself and bring his sister back home. "Stop right there," Beatrice shouts. She knows his reckless decision is going to get the whole group killed. When the boys ignore her commands, she decides to take matters into her own hands with a flashy display of acrobatics. She leaps into the air, spinning over their heads like a pro until the landing. She hits the ground hard. Ouch. Total fail. Her authority vanishes instantly as the boys tell her to stop trying cool moves she clearly hasn't mastered yet. Flustered and embarrassed, she quickly changes the subject. They can't save Margaret if they don't even know where she is. She explains the plan. They need to scout the neighboring towns for clues first. No more blind charging into danger. Secretly, she's annoyed. Margaret should have been a shadow knight by now. How did she get herself into this mess? Later, Julian approaches the outskirts of Ashford. He's confused. Beatrice acted like she didn't care, yet she had disguises ready. Entering the town, he's baffled to see people tearing down houses. But then he smells something heavenly. It's better than anything he's ever smelled in his life. He looks ahead and sees it, a massive, steaming pot of food. Meanwhile, a young beastkin named Finn is trekking toward the village of Silverdell, thinking his sister Mira is kind of a fool. He thinks she's strange for not saving their people sooner, even though she already had disguises ready for them to infiltrate the human lands. As he enters the city, Finn is completely baffled by why all these humans are voluntarily tearing down their own houses. But then a scent hits him, something better than anything he's ever smelled in his life, instantly killing his curiosity about the buildings. He follows the aroma until he sees a massive, bubbling cauldron of stew, and his mouth starts watering like a fountain. Finn can't help himself, commenting on how incredible it smells, while his stomach lets out a roar loud enough for everyone to hear. The cook, a woman named Martha, smiles and asks if the boy is hungry before offering him a seat and a warm bowl. She explains that if he joins the workforce, he can earn his own grain by sunset, and the thought of his starving family wins him over. Finn signs up on the spot, working with more raw energy and enthusiasm than any 3 local workers combined. He works like a man possessed until the sun goes down, finally standing in line to receive his hard-earned bag of wheat. He's overjoyed to finally have something to eat, but the sheer exhaustion of working on an empty stomach finally catches up to him. His body gives out, and after one long, violent shiver, the poor boy collapses onto the hard ground in a dead faint. As his vision fades, he thinks about how dangerous humans are, just as someone rushes over to catch him before he hits the dirt. Finn bolts awake later, gasping out the end of his thought, that humans are a threat, before realizing he's in an unfamiliar room. He panics and reaches for his head, only to realize his hood is gone, meaning his beastkin identity has been completely exposed. That's when Lady Liana appears, asking if he's finally awake and explaining that he simply passed out from pure malnutrition. Seeing her there, Finn scrambles back in a state of shock, his mind racing as he tries to figure out what she's planning to do to him. She introduces herself gently, but Finn is still in survival mode, snarling at her to stay away because of what he is. He tries to look tough, threatening her and saying he'll end her life if she makes him angry, but it's a pretty weak bluff. Despite his best efforts to be a terrifying beastkin, Liana just laughs in his face and asks if his kind are always this dramatic. Young Felix, curious as ever, asks Lady Alina if he scares her. She just smiles, not a hint of fear in her eyes. Apparently, Duke Arthur has a shadow maid in his service, and if she's anything to go by, there's nothing to fear. It clicks, this mysterious maid, it has to be his second sister. Felix gets hyped, asking for every detail about the Duke's companion. Long violet hair, large expressive eyes. That's her. There's no doubt now. Felix has found his sister. He has to get home and spread the news. In his rush, he accidentally brushes Alina's hand, but notices something strange. She doesn't flinch. Without a second thought, the boy grabs the sacks of wheat and his cloak, bolting toward his village like a lightning bolt. Alina watches in pure confusion. He could have used the window, but for some crazy reason, he decided to smash right through the wall. Back at the hidden grotto, Alice is a nervous wreck. Her brother actually disguised himself as a human to walk among them. Insane. She lays into him, giving him the scolding of a lifetime. Does he have any idea how much danger he was in? But Felix shuts it all down with one sentence. Amidst the chaos, he found her. He knows exactly where their sister is being held. Alice's anger vanishes, replaced by desperation. She starts shaking Felix like a rag doll. Where is she? Tell me. Dizzy and seeing stars, Felix gasps out the name with his last bit of strength. Madeline is in the great city of Stirling. She's been taken by Duke Arthur himself. That's all Alice needs to hear. It's time for a rescue mission. Night descends. The village is quiet, peaceful, but the calm isn't going to last long. Alice and Felix are on the move, shadows dancing across the rooftops. She's praying, hoping against hope that Madeline is still okay. They reach the castle gates, and yeah, it's exactly what they expected. Guards everywhere, patrolling, watchful, dangerous. Time to move. She signals Felix to stick to the plan. In a blink, they vanish into the darkness. One moment a poor guard is just, well, relieving himself. The next, he's out cold, talk about bad timing. Each of them handles their business with precision, systematically dismantling the castle's outer security one guard at a time. They're almost clear, but Alice can't help but roll her eyes. Her brother is way too slow. He definitely needs more training. No time to waste. Alice scales the massive stone walls to find Madeline, while Felix holds the perimeter down below. Inside, Baron Leo is just chilling on his velvet couch, deep into a spicy manuscript. The life of a noble, right? He's just about to enjoy a perfect slice of cake when, boom, the wall shatters and two siblings come crashing into the room. Our hero, being the complete pervert he is, actually gets excited. He's wondering who these lovely intruders are from his, unique angle. But these two aren't here for a friendly chat. They're beast folk, they're angry, and they're ready to use force. Felix draws his blade, shouting for the Lord to release his sister. Small problem, he's so nervous he's pointing his dagger at the wrong guy. Leo just blinks, casually taking another bite of cake. And you guys are, who exactly? Realizing his mistake, Felix corrects his aim and lunges. Give her back, you monster. But in a flash of violet, Madeline appears. She blocks the strike instantly, protecting her master without hesitation. They lock eyes, and the world stops. In that moment, they realize they're family. This is the reunion they've been waiting for. Lucas's manor is suddenly the scene of a tense family reunion. Eris stands there, completely staggered, convinced that her sister had been played for a fool by a human. The little guy, Felix, just breaks down in tears right at Millicent's feet, finally reunited with the sister he thought he'd lost. Lucas watches the whole thing, realizing they all share the same foxskin bloodline. But here's the problem. The boy still holds a massive grudge against all humans. He's literally growling about how he's going to end our hero right then and there. That's when Millicent steps in. She shuts down the fight immediately, telling everyone it's just a big misunderstanding. Calmly, she starts explaining why she's really here. She tells them she's only staying at Lucas's manor because she needs time to heal her wounds. Hearing this, her sister Eris is absolutely floored. Eris throws herself into Millicent's arms, sobbing while she desperately asks just how badly her sister was hurt. It's a total emotional wreck of a scene. Seeing her family back together makes Millicent's heart melt, and to stop them from panicking, she promises them she's doing just fine. Then, she turns the tables. Millicent asks why on earth they're even here. She had explicitly told them to stay safe and just get Felix and the others to the southern kingdoms. Eris explains that the rest of the clan wouldn't hear of it. They were convinced she was in danger and insisted on coming back to stage a rescue mission. Meanwhile, Lucas is just standing there, totally mesmerized by the foxskin's beauty. He's completely spaced out, thinking she's the most incredible thing he's ever seen. Trying to kill the awkward silence, Lucas invites everyone to grab a seat on the sofa and just breathe for a second. But Eris is still on edge. She demands to know if Lucas laid a finger on her sister, but Millicent just shrugs it off, saying he wouldn't even have the skill to pull that off. Clutching her sister's hands, Eris pleads with her to leave. There are people waiting for them in the south, and they need to go now. Millicent looks Lucas in the eye, one last silent warning passing between them, before she decides to head back with her family to the Beastkin lands. Lucas can't believe it. Seeing himself about to be left all alone, he shouts after them, desperately hoping the story doesn't end on such a cold note. The group stops. Millicent looks curious, while Eris looks like she's about had it with this human interrupting their family time. Lucas doesn't back down, though. He argues that Millicent is nowhere near recovered and that they need to wait a few more days. Millicent insists she's fine, but our hero has an ace up his sleeve. He drops a bombshell. The local nobles and their knights are hunting beastkin relentlessly, and the road south is a death trap right now. This makes Millicent pause. She starts flashing back to everything Lucas has done for her, all those quiet, genuine moments they shared. After a long silence, she leaves the final call up to her sister. And then, right in the middle of the tension, a massive noise breaks the mood. It's Felix's stomach. It's growling like a beast because the poor kid hasn't had a decent meal in ages. Lucas sees his chance. He knows exactly how to make Millicent stay by doing what he does best. He heads to the kitchen to whip up something special. He serves up a steaming dish of tomato and egg rice for the whole group, telling them to eat until they're full. The aroma fills the room instantly. The three beastkin are completely stunned. They've never smelled anything like it, though Eris tries her best to stay suspicious and resist the temptation. But then, she takes one tiny bite. Suddenly, every single doubt she had just vanishes into thin air. She feels like she's a child again, running wild and free through a sun-drenched field of ripe tomatoes. The flavor is just transcendent. It hits her on a spiritual level. She can't stop herself from praising the dish, completely lost in the magic of the meal. When she finally snaps back to reality, Eris is quietly impressed. She never dreamed a human could possess such incredible culinary talent. Meanwhile, the boys have absolutely no shame. They're basically face down in their bowls, devouring every last grain like wild animals. One of them even jokes that the rice is already gone while they're practically licking the plates clean. Later that night, things get a bit more serious. Millicent is standing out on the stone balcony, lost in thought while she stares up at the pale moon. Lucas finds her there, happy to finally have a moment alone. He asks her straight up, isn't she afraid he might have poisoned her family? Millicent just looks at him. She knows he doesn't have a mean bone in his body and wouldn't even dream of doing something so cruel. Lucas gives an awkward little nod, and for a second the atmosphere is actually quite nice. Then, he asks if she's really still planning on heading south. She sighs and says yes. She feels like there's no other choice. The Winter Queen is coming soon, and they won't survive the frost without food and shelter. But Lucas warns her. The south is hundreds of miles away through hostile territory. He asks her if she really knows what she's walking into. Then he makes a bold offer. He asks Millicent if she and her family want to stay right here in the city of 𝒉. She's shocked. She asks how they'd even survive. They can't just live off the generosity of a lord forever, after all. Lucas has it all figured out. He explains that her friends and family can work for him, earning their keep and their own food with dignity. Millicent is skeptical. Can humans and beastkin really live side by side? Lucas tells her that their unique talents are exactly what society needs. But then comes the real question. Why is he doing all this? Why go to such lengths for them? Lucas finally speaks his truth. He admits he simply can't stand the thought of being away from her because he's grown so fond of her. He knows their people don't trust humans, and he knows she's scared of being betrayed again, but they've been through too much together to quit now. With everything on the line, he looks her in the eye and asks her to stay on his land, by his side. There's a long, heavy silence as they lock eyes. Then, Millicent suddenly turns away, her face flushing bright red as she rushes off. Still no luck winning her over. Inside the manor, Lady Alina's sister admires their new silk gowns. These clothes, way more comfortable than anything a local noble would wear. Pure luxury, and they feel amazing. Anya jokes that her sister got lucky, seeing as these were the only tiny sizes left in town. Shots fired. Anya feels personally attacked about her petite figure and thinks she's being mocked for her size. She immediately tackles her sister in a playful rage. Meanwhile, Sir Leo just enjoys the sounds of their laughter. He's vibing in his room, but then reality hits. The girls are supposed to leave at dawn tomorrow morning. Back in their room, Alina pulls her sister aside for a serious talk. She's feeling pretty conflicted now. Do we really have to head to the southern kingdoms? She asks. Anya just gets annoyed at the question. Anya grabs her shoulders, demanding to know why she's so obsessed with staying near that human lord, Leo. Alina plays it off, claiming she's just worried about the lack of safety and food supplies down south. Anya asks if the lord of the citadel filled her head with these fears. Alina says no, obviously. She stands up, explaining that the beast folk don't realize the sheer danger waiting for them in the wild. She suggests that if they stay here, they can handle any future trouble as long as they persevere. This actually makes Anya stop and think. Maybe staying in the citadel isn't such a bad idea after all. Later, the castle halls are buzzing. The younger beast folk are completely stunned by the sisters' fancy new outfits. They look like literal princesses in those royal gowns. The kids are jealous, asking why they don't get new gear. Anya just snaps back that there were only dresses available. Typical. Meanwhile, our hero Leo is a total zombie. It's departure day, and he's devastated. After wiping his tears, he prepares to guide the group out. But wait, before he can say goodbye, they call his name. Plot twist, they've completely changed their minds. Anya, in her usual arrogant style, points a finger at him. Fine, what jobs do you have for us? Leo's soul literally returns to his body. His eyes are glowing with hype as he realizes what's happening. To be sure, he asks if they're staying. Alina clarifies it's just a temporary agreement for now. If we find out you're plotting anything against us, Leo, we'll end your entire bloodline. Talk about a threat. Leo doesn't care about the warning. He's not a villain anyway. He's just vibrating with pure, unadulterated joy. He's so hyped he spends the night celebrating loudly, which starts keeping the girls awake in their rooms. Anya's already regretting the decision because of the noise, but Leo is too happy to have any chill. The next night, Leo's watching the sisters play while he eats. He's thinking, man, my life is amazing. He can't look away from the beast folk girls. Natalie, meanwhile, is just staring at Leo with pure adoration. She's totally smitten, distorting reality in her head to make her master look like a legendary divine knight. Suddenly, Leo checks his watch. It's time. He fakes a yawn and says he's heading to bed early. Natalie is confused. Master, you usually stay up until midnight. What's going on? She knows something is off. He claims he's just overworked, but it's a total act. He needs everyone to leave him alone tonight. With a serious look, he warns that everything else must wait until tomorrow. Natalie smiles and promises total silence. Alina isn't buying it, though. She notices his strange behavior and suspects he's hiding a massive secret. Leo locks his door. Finally, it's time to hop back to his world to stock up on modern supplies. He needs more uniforms for his soldiers. He extends his hand, summoning a glowing blue circle of energy. This is his secret, a daily time travel power that constantly buffs his physical body and magical abilities. It's so powerful he can practically see potential risks in the future, but controlling the jump, that's hard. He flips upside down, falling through the void until, bam, he's back in his modern-day bedroom on Earth. He smacks his head right on the bed frame. Still haven't mastered the landing, he groans in pain. Suddenly, Baron Leo raises his hand, and a brilliant blue circle erupts. It's a time leap ability, the power to shift once a day. This doesn't just boost his stats, it lets him glimpse the future, seeing every potential threat before it even happens. Here's the catch, he can't control the landing. At all, it's like being thrown into a cosmic washing machine. He tumbles through the void, flipping upside down before slamming headfirst into the bedpost in his old world. Ouch. After the world stops spinning, he groans. He's done this so many times, but he still can't stick the landing. Guess he'll just have to get used to the quiet. No one's around to tease him here, not like back in the kingdom. But then, disaster strikes. While pacing his room, our hero trips over a stray comic book and loses his balance. He eats floor, face-planting right into a mountain of books. Without Lady Nicola around to tidy up, this place is a total wreck. No time to clean, though. Leo hits the computer because he's got a score to settle with some old associates. He jumps into the chat, cold and determined. The goal, securing 500 steel bows and 500 longbows for his army. His contact asks if he's for real. Leo doesn't flinch. Just do it, he says. Money, not even an issue. The cover story is perfect. He's filming an epic war movie in a far-off land and needs the gear fast. The supplier buys it hook, line, and sinker. They promise to rush the production and ship it to him immediately. Just like that, Lord Leo cons the modern world into arming his medieval soldiers. Talk about working smarter, not harder. He's about to head back when he remembers the essentials. Groceries. Even a legendary lord needs snacks. At the supermarket, he's got a list a mile long. We're talking a full-scale logistical operation here. He's clearing the shelves of soap and paper. 2 women nearby are watching, and they are absolutely floored. They're whispering that he must be the CEO of some massive corporation. And honestly, can you blame them? He's got his main cart, plus 2 employees trailing behind him with even more overflowing trolleys. It's a spectacle. 9 toothbrushes, dozens of shampoos, and stacks of napkins. It's a mountain of supplies that would make anyone stare. The cashier looks like she's about to have a breakdown just thinking about scanning all of it. Talk about a shift from hell. But wait, she recognizes him. "Mr. Leo," she asks, realizing he's one of their regular local customers. She leans in close, making sure no one's listening, and brings up his time-traveling romance novel. Turns out, she's a huge fan. She's read every single chapter and wants to know why he stopped writing for months. Leo, totally embarrassed. He just mumbles something about being pretty busy lately. Yeah, busy ruling a castle in another dimension. The cashier mentions she talked to his neighbor, who said he hadn't stepped outside in ages. She's convinced he's been locked away, working on a massive literary masterpiece for his grand return. Leo just goes with it to avoid the drama, but in his head, yeah, he definitely needs a new grocery store. Meanwhile, back in the fantasy world, Lady Seraphina is hovering outside his door. She's got a bad feeling. She's worried her lord might be ill or worse. Taking a breath, she reaches for the handle to check on him. Locked, naturally. Back on Earth, Leo's got all the boxes stacked high on his bed, ready for transport. He activates his interior space. Think of it like a magical vacuum that only he can see or touch. It's a massive, timeless void sitting between Earth and the other world. Whatever goes in stays exactly the same. To move the heavy stuff, he uses the power of the fingers, a gift from that weird electric shock he got. He can manipulate electricity to lift and store gear invisibly. It's the ultimate cheat for a cross-world smuggler. Nobody can see what he's doing, which makes moving an entire armory's worth of supplies a total breeze. After a solid workout, the job is done. Every single box is safely tucked away inside his personal void. He's feeling pretty good about himself until he spots a fast food bag sitting on his desk. He looks at those burgers and grins. The girls are gonna lose their minds over these, he thinks. With the snacks in hand, he prepares to jump. Back in the fantasy world, things have gone dead silent. Seraphina is panicking now. She can't even hear the Lord breathing through the wood of the door. She's convinced something terrible happened or that he's vanished. Her instincts are screaming danger. She braces herself, pulling her leg back for a simple entrance. You know exactly what's coming next. At that exact second, Leo materializes inside the room. He's all smiles, thinking his bedroom is the safest spot to land. "So peaceful," he says, but that peace lasts about half a second before the world explodes. Bam! Seraphina kicks the door so hard the locks shatter, and the whole frame flies inward. A massive cloud of dust fills the air. She's coughing, but her eyes are sharp, searching for any sign of Leo. She looks around the corners, but he's gone. Why? Because she's standing right on top of his bed. The door impact flipped the bed right over, pinning Leo underneath. He's groaning in pain, totally crushed. Seraphina feels terrible and rushes to help, but hey, at least the burgers survived. Time for a feast. Alara bursts into the room, explaining she knocked but got no answer, so she just rushed in. Lord Alaric looks at his broken door and asks why she's so worried about him. That question. It catches her completely off guard. Flustered, she denies everything, claiming she only came to say thanks. Alaric points at the ruined door, joking that her people have a very unique way of showing gratitude. He smiles, wondering how she'll really repay him. Maybe as an apology the girl should just marry him. Alara literally spits out her snack in shock. Realizing he went too far, Alaric says he was just kidding. He lunges for some water, but ends up tripping and soaking Alara instead. Smooth move, Lord Alaric. Both are mortified, especially with her clothes now soaking wet. Being a total klutz, the hero panics. He rushes to grab some napkins, but disaster strikes again. The two of them trip and collide hard. For a second, Alaric's face lands right against her chest, sending his blood pressure through the roof. His nose starts bleeding uncontrollably. Fainting, he reaches out for balance and grabs her tail with both hands. Alara is beyond embarrassed. Alaric realizes he's messed up again, and a heavy silence fills the room. Then comes the explosion. Fueled by pure rage, Alara slaps him across the face with her tail. Before storming out, she turns back with a deadly glare, warning him to never speak of the tail incident. Alaric rubs his sore face, remembering that in this world, a catfolk's tail is their most sensitive spot. Alara leaves in a huff, a mix of anger and shame, while Alaric just watches her go, totally dazed. He wonders if that chaotic mess was actually flirting. Meanwhile, near the kingdom's border, trouble is brewing. Hooded men on horseback ride through the mountain passes, certain they've finally found the right place. As they enter the outskirts, they pass by local workers, their cloaks fluttering to reveal hidden steel. It's nightfall. One worker is celebrating because he finally earned 1 kilogram of grain for his family. His friend isn't surprised. Their lord has always been generous. But then they see the strange riders. It's way too late for travelers to be lurking around, and the vibe is suddenly very, very wrong. The men don't even get a chance to run before they're cornered by a mysterious, cold-blooded warrior. Like a true villain, the man snatches the worker's grain. The poor guy tries to fight for it. But the warrior doesn't even want the food. He just rips the bag open, letting it rot in the dirt. He walks away, leaving the worker devastated as his entire day's wages scattered in the mud. Refusing to be a victim, the boy chases after the mercenary who ruined his life. Big mistake. The bandit doesn't hesitate. He draws a dagger and slashes. Blood splatters across the dark road. His companion is paralyzed with fear. He tries to scream for help, but it's already too late. Another hooded man appears behind him, and more blood is spilled. These men are professional killers. They leave the bodies behind, mocking the situation even though they hadn't planned on a double murder. Deep inside the capital, a corrupt merchant is hosting a massive feast for these very same hooded men. There's wine, women, and excess. While one mercenary gorges himself, the others remain eerily calm. Later, at the site of the attack, the villagers are in mourning, crying over their lost friends. It's a tragedy that hits too close to home. The chief knight arrives to keep the crowd back. He informs everyone that the Lord is already on site, personally leading the investigation into the murders. Alaric is there, and he's absolutely fuming. Someone dared to kill his people right under his nose. He vows that, when he catches these monsters, he'll punish them in the most brutal way possible. He's talking about flaying them alive. The commander, however, notices something strange about the crime scene. He tells Alaric that based on the precision of the wounds, these weren't just random mountain bandits. The harvest hasn't even started yet, and the mist lands are too poor to attract common thieves right now. Secondly, the cuts on the victims were too clean. These were made by expensive, high-quality blades. That means the killers were well-funded. And thirdly, there's the most confusing part of all. They didn't take the food. Why kill for grain and then leave it to rot in the dirt? Alaric is left standing in the dark, wondering what kind of shadow has fallen over his kingdom. Lord Arthur finds the whole situation bizarre. These raiders, they butchered his people but didn't touch a single gold coin. Why leave the loot behind? The young lord cuts right into Alara's meal, breaking her focus. She looks up, mouth full of meat, as her master's shadow looms over her. "I need you for a job," he says, "but it's risky. Suicidal, maybe." He tells her straight up she can walk away right now with no hard feelings. Alara, she's not just any demi-human. She's fearless. Danger doesn't scare her, only boredom does. "Just tell me who needs to die," she chirps. Seeing her resolve, Arthur stands from his throne, his eyes turning cold. He needs this done right. He commands the girl to head to the merchant's district under the cover of night. "Watch, listen, bring me their secrets," he says. He warns her to keep her head down and stay out of trouble. 𝒆𝒅𝒊 just yawns, stretching like a cat. If it's a night job, she's got plenty of time. She bolts out to grab a quick nap before the sun drops. But wait, Arthur calls her back one more time. He's got a gift for her. He's prepared a special recon suit for her to wear, and knowing our lords, questionable tastes. Yeah, it's definitely more distracting than practical. It's designed to make her look, well, let's just say a bit more provocative than usual. She doesn't really get it at first, but when night falls, 𝒆𝒅𝒊 actually puts the thing on. It's tight, like really tight. Arthur turns around and bam. The result of his hard work is standing right there. 𝒆𝒅𝒊 is tugging at the fabric, complaining it's a bit too snug. Poor Arthur. His nose is practically a fountain right now because she looks incredible. Despite her doubts, even 𝒆𝒅𝒊 admits she kind of likes it. To keep her safe, he hands her a sleek steel dagger, a proper weapon for a spy. She stares at the blade for a second, looking totally confused. Then she just hurls it. The knife thuds into the corner of the room. She glares at him. She doesn't need steel to rip a man apart. "Equipment is for the weak," she declares. Arthur. He's just staring at the massive hole she just punched into his expensive mahogany bookshelf. She sees his face and sighs. Fine. Out of respect for her lord, she yanks the blade out of the wood and flashes him a sharp grin. She decides to take it along anyway. Arthur is torn. Should he be happy she's armed or mourn his ruined furniture? Either way, 𝒆𝒅𝒊 vanishes into the shadows. A few moments later, her nighttime mission officially begins. She's a blur on the rooftops, leaping from stone to stone. She slips through an open window at the red merchant's estate like a ghost. Piece of cake. She smirks to herself. Nobody can track a catkin. Now it's time to hear what these snakes are whispering about in the dark. She leans in. Inside the hall, the lead merchant is running his mouth, and it's enough to hang him 10 times over. He's telling his thugs that a few dead peasants are just the cost of doing business. Killing one person here or there, not a problem. But he warns them to stay low. If Lord Arthur catches wind of their little game, the whole plan goes up in flames. One of the mercenaries laughs. Why wait? He asks why they're so scared when they could just move the schedule up. He suggests they just send a few assassins tonight to take the Lord's head and be done with it. Simple, right? Big mistake. He has no idea 𝒆𝒅𝒊 is watching from the rafters, fuming at the sheer audacity of this man wanting to fight her master. Another greedy merchant nods along. As long as they kill Arthur, the city of Oakhaven will be theirs to strip bare. But then it gets disgusting. The last one concludes that once the Lord is dead, they can capture his beautiful demi-human servant. They start joking about playing with her however they want. The thought of it alone gets them all excited. They're laughing now, lost in their own filthy, criminal fantasies. They have no clue their deaths are currently staring down at them from the ceiling. 𝒆𝒅𝒊 is seeing red. She's ready to drop down and tear their throats out right now. But the red merchant, he knows the consequences of killing a noble. He's worried about the fallout, but then another merchant pipes up. They aren't alone in this. They have the support of the high nobility. 70% of their gold is paid directly to Baron Cedric. With that kind of backing, Arthur doesn't stand a chance. The mercenary confirms it. He was personally sent by Baron Cedric to ensure the Lord dies. Upon hearing that name, 𝒆𝒅𝒊 freezes. She stops her attack mid-motion. This is a game changer. This isn't just a local spat anymore. It's a conspiracy involving the crown's own vassals. She needs to get back. Fast. Back at the castle, the mood is toxic. Arthur's council is reeling as the truth behind the boy's murder finally comes to light. Sir Gareth, the captain, is absolutely livid. These bastards weren't just killing peasants. They were planning to assassinate his own kin. "We wiped them out, every single one," the commander growls. But Arthur remains calm. He needs to know who is this Baron Cedric. The commander takes a breath to explain the power dynamic. In the kingdom of Valerius, titles are everything. It's a ladder of 5 ranks, starting from the low-level barons and climbing all the way up to the absolute king. Sitting high at the 4th tier of power is Count Sterling, a massive aristocrat with over 200 elite knights at his command. And here's the kicker. Baron Cedric is the youngest son of Count Sterling. Arthur's eyes narrow as the pieces finally click into place. This isn't just about gold. It's about a bloodline war. Lord Alaric unrolls the ancient scroll, his face hardening as he realizes they've poked a sleeping lion. This enemy, not someone to mess with. He fears the Earl might use this mess as an excuse to ignite a full-scale war. Sir Cedric looks disappointed, wondering if there's no way to honor their fallen brothers-in-arms. After a long, heavy pause, the Lord makes a risky call. They wait. They won't move until an assassin actually tries to take his head. The next morning, the birds are singing, and the manor is treated to a new delicacy Alaric taught the chefs himself. Lady Elinor proudly sets down a mountain of fresh donuts, telling everyone to eat until they're absolutely stuffed. The beast folk don't need a second invitation. They start devouring everything like they've never seen food before. Alaric just tells the girls to pace themselves. There are plenty of other dishes to try, but Elinor, she takes his words as a direct, flirtatious compliment to her. Suddenly, she's a blushing mess, thinking the day is absolutely perfect. But then, a scream ruins everything. The peaceful morning vibe is shattered as a cry of bad news echoes through the halls. Everyone freezes. All eyes turn to the end of the corridor. 2 panicked citizens come sprinting toward the Lord of Oakhaven. Desperate and out of breath, they deliver the grim report. Another stranger has appeared, and another one of their people is dead. Alaric slams his fist onto the table, standing up in a cold fury. This isn't just a crime, it's a blatant insult to his rule. Lady Arabella, however, just shrugs it off. She asks why he doesn't just send a scout to check it out first. That total lack of common sense just makes Alaric even more livid. He's done waiting. He's going personally. No more wasting time. He stands tall, knowing it's his duty to restore order and crush the chaos in his streets. Alaric marches toward the city gates, letting everyone know he'll be gone for a while. Duty calls. Back at the palace, Arabella still isn't taking it seriously. But Elinor, she's worried sick. That's just who she is. Later, the Lord's party is sprinting through the city, following the commoner who brought the news. But something feels off. Alaric starts wondering why this boy is running so fast. He's almost a blur. They turn into a narrow alley, and then, the worst-case scenario, Alaric loses sight of the boy completely. The trap is sprung. Lyra is the first to sense the danger, spinning around to warn the group. Too late, the ground beneath their feet just vanishes. It's a pit trap, and they're right in the middle of it. Sir Cedric and Lyra land perfectly, but our Lord, he hits the dirt hard on his back, not exactly his best look. As the plan works, one of the bandits starts mocking them from the edge. They really thought he was that easy to trick. Alaric roars from the pit, demanding to know who these hooded cowards are. Assassins or not, he promises they're dead men. The bandits just laugh. They've got the high ground and they know it. One of them decides the talking is over. Time to bury them alive and head back to the boss for a payday. But they forgot one thing, a massive variable they didn't account for. Lyra, the beast girl, scales those walls like a shadow and strikes one of the bandits before he can even blink. The other bandit draws his steel, but as he lunges, she smashes the weapon right out of his hand. Disarmed and terrified, the assassins realize they're completely outmatched by this girl. They whistle for their horses and bolt, shouting that their day of reckoning will come, just not today. Down in the pit, Cedric helps the Lord climb out. Alaric is just glad the girl managed to scare them off. Cedric starts bragging about his squad's skills, mocking the bandits for even thinking they could touch the Lord. But Alaric spots something chilling. He looks at the end of the trap and shouts for Lyra to stop. Don't chase them, but she's already too far away to hear his warning. Alaric scrambles up, telling Cedric that the girl is heading straight into a potential ambush if they don't help. Cedric panics. How are they supposed to keep up with her on foot? They don't have horses. Our hero is resourceful, though. He spots a giant flightless swift bird nearby and decides it'll have to do. He leaps onto the animal, ordering it forward to follow Lyra while telling Cedric to go get reinforcements. Cedric is just standing there, baffled. Where did the bird come from? How did the Lord even tame it that fast? Meanwhile, a local villager is nearby, looking for the massive bird he'd just captured for his stew. He had the cauldron boiling and spices ready, but his dinner just got drafted into the Lord's cavalry. Back in the woods, Lyra is leaping from branch to branch, closing the gap on the assassins. Then she hears her name. She looks back and, yep, there's the Lord charging through the brush on a giant bird. Lord Alaric yells for her to halt, warning that a snare likely waits in the shadows. But ironically, that very fear hits home when the Lord himself stumbles right into a pit while trying to help. His war steed faints, and our hero is sent flying. Tumbling off his mount, Alara, the lynxborn, panics as Alaric begins his terrifying freefall, given the dire situation. He screams for backup. Alara doesn't hesitate, leaping from the branches to catch the Lord midair, sweeping him into her arms. It is a bit awkward, honestly. But hey, despite the bruised ego, our Lord was successfully snatched from the jaws of death. Safe and sound, Alara checks if her master is hurt, and Alaric plays it cool. But right then, in the heart of the woods, a cold voice shatters the moment. "Quite the show, Lord," a figure sneers, suddenly from every thicket and shadow. Cloaked killers emerge. Their captain, backed by a full squad, tells Alaric to savor his last breath while he still can. This is the end of the line, seeing a small army of blades just for him. Yeah, our hero was definitely sweating. Terrified but trying to stall, Alaric demands to know why they are hunting him. I mean, they do not even have a personal grudge. No history, no blood feud, nothing. But these cold-blooded mercenaries do not care. They tell the Lord to save his breath for hell. Alaric's heart sinks. Even with his chosen one status, these brigands are not backing down for some grand protagonist speech. Luckily, his silver tongue did not really matter. Why? Because the young lord had his secret weapon, Alara, at his side. She does not waste a second. Like a blur, she tears through the ranks, dropping bandits left and right until only their captain stands. The leader's eyes go wide. Panicking, he screams for every remaining man to swarm the girl at once. Pure desperation. Alara narrows her eyes, tracking every blade as they close in. But then, crack, a sudden strike seems to catch her off guard. A bandit's blade connects, or so he thinks. He starts celebrating, convinced he has finally drawn blood from the lynx warrior. He is cheering for nothing. The blade met thin air. In a heartbeat, she simply vanishes from his sight. Unreal speed. With god-tier agility, Alara reappears behind the group, systematically taking them down one by one. It is like she is dancing. Finally, she lunges for the leader's throat. He barely, and I mean barely, dodges the blow, gasping for air. Alara stops, mocking the captain's dumb luck. She warns him, "Enjoy that lucky break because there won't be another." That sets him off. Shaking with pure rage, the assassin draws his steel and swings wildly, screaming for her to rot in hell. Too easy. Alara dodges effortlessly. A sluggish, angry strike like that is never going to touch a warrior as fast as her. But wait, the blade catches her sleeve, tearing the fabric. The bandit starts gloating, thinking he is finally wearing her down. He asks if she is shocked, but Alara, she is not scared. She is just thinking about the fact that those clothes were a gift from her master. That was a mistake. Enraged, she charges like a storm, unleashing her full power on the man without holding anything back. She strikes his vitals with precision, sending him crashing to the dirt. From the sidelines, Lord Alaric watched the whole masterclass. He cannot help but praise her. The Shadow Vanguard, he calls her, and honestly, she truly earned that title today. Alara blushes, acting all humble but clearly proud. Only natural, she boasts, for a champion of the cat tribe. But she let her guard down. In that split second of bragging, the assassin crawls up, blade ready to sink into her back. Alaric shouts a warning, but she is too far gone in her victory speech. So he throws himself in front of her to take the hit. He takes the blow, collapsing right into 𝑴𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒆𝒗𝒂𝒍. She is absolutely devastated, terrified her master has been killed protecting her. But then the drama starts. Alaric begins playing it up, acting like he is taking his final breath, even though he looks fine. The bandit does not care about the theatrics. He raises his sword for the finishing blow. "End of the road for both of you," he sneers. But THWIP, arrows suddenly sprout from the assassin's chest, sending him face down into the mud. "Game over, buddy." Our heroes spin around, and there they are. The cavalry has finally arrived. Talk about perfect timing. They are ecstatic. The knight commander leaps off his horse, sprinting over to check if Lord Alaric is still in one piece. Alaric is totally fine, thanks to his master-crafted leather armor from the old world. These local swords, way too primitive to bite. The knight commander is relieved, but a bit annoyed. I mean, they mobilized the entire royal guard for a handful of bandits. Still, he makes it clear. If anyone touches the lord, the army will burn them to the ground. But Alaric's face goes pale. He calms down, and then it hits him, the cold realization. This was not a random hit, it was a distraction. While they were playing around in the woods, the capital was burning. Flames are already ripping through the residential districts. Pure chaos. People are panicking, throwing water everywhere, but the fire is moving too fast. And the worst part, the grand warehouse, the city's lifeline, is an inferno. The commander is already barking orders to gather every able-bodied soul. "Water, we need water." As the heat intensifies, Alaric shouts for the citizens to soak their clothes. They have to survive this night. The chancellor warns that the inferno is too wild, begging the lord to retreat, but he isn't listening. Ignoring the advice, he plunges into the smoke, desperately hurling buckets of water at the roaring flames. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the chaos. His aunt arrives with devastating news. Alara and Nicole are missing. The worst-case scenario flashes through Sir Arthur's mind. Without wasting a single second, he bolts toward the danger. Millicent, his loyal knight, keeps pace. She's a deadly warrior, but she has one major weakness: fire. The heat makes her flinch with every step. Meanwhile, deep inside the smoke-filled warehouse, things look grim. The two girls lie unconscious, completely defenseless. But then, Nicole's eyes snap open to a literal hellscape. Everything is burning. She tries to shake Alara awake, but the girl is out cold until the heat bites. A stray flame licks Alara's skin, and she bolts upright in a total panic. Her instinctual fear is kicking in. Terrified and confused, she demands to know what's happening. Nicole realizes they've been kidnapped and dumped here to die. That realization sparks a different kind of fire in Alara. She's furious, swearing she'll make the culprits regret being born. But talk is cheap when the ceiling is melting. The situation is becoming way too dire for casual conversation. Little by little, the entire timber structure begins to give way. The warehouse is literally falling apart. Nicole asks the terrifying question, "Are we really going to burn to death?" Alara snaps back with a defiant no. She's determined to survive, but a massive support beam snaps. The roof begins to collapse directly onto their heads. They brace for the end, eyes shut tight. But then they see Sir Arthur holding up the entire wooden structure. He caught the falling roof with his bare hands. The girls are stunned and beyond happy to see him. He tells them to move toward the exit. In that moment, Alara's view of the Lord completely flips. She realizes he's literally risking his life for them. Outside, however, the situation is still a total disaster. The fire is winning. Duke William is losing his mind with worry since his own kin is trapped inside. Suddenly, his subordinate points to the warehouse. Figures are emerging through the thick, black smoke. It's him. Battered and scorched, Sir Arthur managed to drag both girls out from the jaws of a cruel death. A wave of relief and gratitude washes over the crowd. Seeing them alive is the best thing that could happen. Cheers erupt for the lord of the manor. Even the rescued girls join in, thankful to be breathing. Once the flames are finally doused, the medics rush in. But Alara, she's too angry to rest. She's fuming about being captured and the bastards who torched their supplies. Arthur's blood is boiling too. He realizes this was a setup. It's not the first time these snakes have tried to play him like this. He explains the trap. Hooded mercenaries drew him away from the city and into a forest ambush. With the Lord and his knights distracted, the city was vulnerable. That's when the merchants struck. They used the chaos to burn the winter stores. Elara is livid, but then the ultimate audacity happens. A group of men arrives, shouting about helping the Lord put out the fire. Pure, unadulterated shamelessness. It's the very merchants who planned the arson. They're acting like they actually care about the village. They're putting on a show, trying to look like the heroes of the hour. It's absolutely disgusting. Millicent is shaking, ready to draw her sword and end them. Arthur has to step in to stop the carnage. He stops his knight and the commander. "Don't be reckless," he warns. He knows they need to play this smart. The head merchant is gloating internally. He thinks he's finally taught the Lord a lesson for humiliating him. Arthur whispers to his team, "These rats are building a public image. We can't act without hard evidence. If they attack now, they look like the villains. Millicent is frustrated. How can they just stand there?" Arthur stays silent, his mind racing. He's furious, but he won't let his anger cloud his next move. The fire is out, leaving nothing but ash and charred wood where the food used to be. The merchant starts his act, lamenting the tragedy and claiming he tried to help, but arrived too late. Arthur plays along. He puts on a mask and thanks the merchants for their kind help. The merchant smiles back, but then he drops the poison pill. He asks about the food supply inside. It's a calculated strike, meant to trigger a panic. The crowd starts to murmur in absolute terror. Arthur turns toward the man. His aura shifts, turning cold and serious as he stares the traitor down. Lord Alastair steps forward, announcing he knows exactly who lit the match. The local nobles start sweating hard. But then, a massive curveball. The High Lord points the finger at the Midnight Raiders. Yes, those infamous horse thieves. He claims they're the ones who burned the grain stores to the ground. The townspeople lose it, panic everywhere. It's not even autumn yet. That's the only time those raiders ever strike. Something is very, very wrong. Our hero plays it cool. He claims he hasn't seen a soul on the road since his return to the capital. But here's the kicker. He suggests the thieves are already here, hiding, among them, right inside the city walls. Talk about turning up the heat on everyone's paranoia. "Don't you worry," Alastair tells the crowd, playing the noble protector. He's the city lord after all. His duty, defending the people at all costs. Then the hammer drops. Effective immediately, the gates of Silvercrest City are under total lockdown. No one in, no one out, all to hunt the raiders. He claims it's for their own safety, to preserve the king's peace while his knights root out the vermin hiding in the city's shadows. The peasants go wild, cheering for their brave leader. Meanwhile, the corrupt merchants are standing there, absolutely baffled. What is Alastair playing at? Lord Sterling, the ginger-haired ringleader, can't believe his eyes. He's wondering if the High Lord is actually this stupid, or if it's a trap. Sterling convinced the boy just couldn't find the real culprit, so he's using the raiders as a convenient scapegoat. But he's not the only one skeptical. Beatrice, the Lord's own ward, pulls him aside. She's confused. Why lie? Why blame bandits when they both know the merchants did it? Alastair just gives her that look, confident, dangerous. "Just wait," he whispers. "The show is only just beginning. Trust the process, kid." Back at the Merchants Guild, the villains are actually throwing a party. They're laughing, praising their luck because the idiot Lord couldn't touch them. They're toasting to their survival. One lackey even jokes that burning the warehouse was a stroke of genius since the raiders are taking the fall. They think they've won. Alastair looks like a fool, the raiders are the villains, and their pockets stay fat with coin. Perfect, right? Another merchant points out that the gate lockdown is just going to keep the raiders trapped for Alastair's knights to find. Or so they think. Suddenly, bam, Sterling hurls his wine goblet right at the man's head. He's not celebrating, he's fuming. "You idiots," he roars. "We're in trouble." He sees the truth. 𝒆𝒅 didn't lock those gates to catch bandits. He locked them to pen the merchants in like sheep for the slaughter. The public announcement was a lie. A smoke screen. The investigation isn't looking for raiders, it's looking for them. And there's nowhere left to run. One of the goons asks for a plan, but Sterling tells them to stay sharp. If the law comes knocking for answers, they need a story. Right on cue, a massive crash outside. Chaos hits the manor. Some of the dumber guards think the real raiders have actually arrived for their food. Sterling just curses them out. Idiots! He knows exactly what's happening. These aren't bandits, they're 𝒆𝒅's personal hounds sent to finish the job. He's livid. He never expected the young lord to be this calculated, this ruthless. He didn't just want an arrest, he wanted blood. In a fit of pure rage, he kicks over a heavy candelabra. Hatred for 𝒆𝒅 is burning hotter than the warehouse fire ever did. Then a merchant scout bursts in, looking like he's seen a ghost. He's gasping for air, covered in soot and trembling with pure terror. The news is grim. The bandits have already hit their private stores. They've taken everything. The food, the gold, and the guards are all dead. Sterling's jaw hits the floor. It's a total wipeout. Panic starts spreading through the merchant council like a plague. What now? No guards, no escape. They don't even have time to pray. 𝒆𝒅's elite assassins burst through the doors, moving like shadows. It's a bloodbath in seconds. The fancy dinner party turns into a nightmare. Everyone's going down. Sterling realizes the game is up, and it's time to move, fast. He bolts. Scrambling for the window, he starts shoving his own men into the blades just to buy himself a few more seconds of life. Pure cowardice. Pushing subordinates aside, he's desperate to reach the garden. He has to get out. He has to live. But there's a problem. A big one. He's way too fat for the window frame. He's stuck, wiggling like a worm as an assassin closes in. In that moment, he's regretting every single steak he ever ate. His own gluttony is literally going to be the death of him. Karma hurts. Luckily for the big guy, the assassin hits a patch of wax from the candle Sterling knocked over earlier. He slips, hard. The killer goes flying, head-butting Sterling's backside with enough force to pop him through. But not before Sterling lets out a massive, disgusting fart. Right in the guy's face. The assassin is so repulsed he actually loses the will to keep fighting. Honestly, can't blame him, that's toxic. Thanks to that, well, ventilation, the chubby noble tumbles out. It wasn't a graceful landing, but hey, he's alive. For now. He hits the ground, and luckily, a pile of hay cushions the fall. His servant rushes over, helping the trembling merchant to his feet. They've got to vanish before the knights find them. But then, the servant starts screaming for help. The raiders are here, someone help us. He's trying to call for the town guard to report the attack. Sterling grabs him by the throat, calling him the biggest moron in the kingdom. Report it, to the man who sent the killers. Sterling is terrified. But in the shadows, two stable boys are watching the whole pathetic scene. They see the bandits and the fleeing merchant. They don't hesitate. They take off at a sprint to tell the Lord exactly what they saw. Cut back to the high castle. 𝒆𝒅 is having a nice, quiet dinner with his guests. Calm, collected, as if he didn't just end a guild. He turns to Alina, one of the girls from the fire, and asks how her wounds are healing. She just blushes, thanking her savior with a smile. Little Alice tries to act tough, but then she admits she's actually far from okay. Honestly, she thought she was a goner several times, and now only a mountain of sweets can fix her. Eat your fill, 𝒆𝒅 laughs. And just like that, the beast knight's ravenous appetites turn dinner into pure chaos. Suddenly, a frantic servant bursts in. My lord, the marauders are back. They're raiding the capital again. It's worse than before. They aren't just stealing grain. They're tearing through the streets like they own the place. Lord 𝒆𝒅 doesn't say a word. He sets his teacup down, stands up with cold determination, and calls Cedric. The knight responds instantly. The order. Prepare the legions. Tonight we hunt these rats down on the city outskirts. Out in the dark, the bandits' wagons were flying, driven by war horses moving at a terrifying, breakneck speed. Stockpiled with stolen loot, The thieves lashed their steeds, torches flickering like fireflies as they pushed for the gate. They hit the city limits and saw the heavy barricades. Did they slow down? Not even a little bit. Those horses are monsters. They smashed through the timber structures as if they were nothing but dry, brittle kindling. Total destruction. They left nothing behind but a massive cloud of dust and a group of terrified citizens. But inside the walls, the counterattack was already brewing. Sir Cedric was hyping up the troops for the chase. "The man who captures the most thieves gets a chest of gold," he roared. "Talk about some serious motivation." The noise wakes up the entire town. Usually people would hide, but tonight, something was very, very different. They believe in Lord Alastair. Plus, they are sick and tired of these thieves breathing their air. Every citizen grabbed whatever sharp tool they had, pitchforks, knives, anything. They were all hunting that massive reward. It was a sight to behold. A wave of civilians following the armored cavalry into the moonlight to defend home. Leading the charge, Alastair pointed his blade forward, coordinating the march with the cold precision of a true king. Alara was tracking them through the trees, but when the Lord called, she dropped to the ground instantly. He told her to stay back and hide until the coast was clear, and she knew better than to argue. One leaped to the roof, another to the trees. From her high perch, she watched the entire trap unfold. Deep in the brush, some shady merchants saw the thieves and the army clashing, realizing things were going south. One guy shouted that the gates were close, but the red-haired leader nearly took his head off for shouting. "Shut your mouth," he hissed, his eyes darting around as the sounds of battle grew louder behind them. Suddenly, a lone peasant charged toward the army, screaming a battle cry that echoed through the dark woods. The redhead sneered. "Once Alastair leaves, I'll have Baron Sterling wipe out every single soul in this miserable province." As the dust settled, the merchants tried to slip away, but Alara was already above them, silent as death. They vanished into the midnight forest, unaware that an owl, yes, a literal owl, was watching their every suspicious move. The redhead led the way, checking for scouts. Thinking they were safe, they kept sprinting into the deep dark. Finally, they reached their safe house, or so they thought. Instead, they found a wrecked wagon and a horse. One of the greedy merchants' eyes lit up. Food, right there for the taking. He couldn't believe his luck. A few of them rushed forward, hands already grabbing at the sacks of grain without thinking twice. "Why is this just sitting here?" one asked. The other shrugged. "Who cares? It's free dinner, just grab it." But the smart one, he froze. He knew a trap when he saw one and told them to stop. "This is too easy," he warned. But his foolish partner just laughed him off, thinking it was bandit loot. "No trap here, just gold," he claimed, shoveling food into his pockets like a total greedy idiot. The redhead snapped. He grabbed the guy by the throat, furious that one mistake could get them all executed. But the merchant just shoved him back. "What, are you scared of a little wagon?" he mocked him. He called the rest of the crew over. "Take it all, this belongs to us now," and greed won. They looked at each other, nodded, and started stuffing their sacks with every last bit of the stolen food. The idiot started bragging. "See, I told you I was the brains here. Everything is turning out just fine." The redhead just sighed, irritated beyond belief. "Fine, if you want to die, you can do it alone." But he didn't get far. A flickering light appeared in the woods, then another, then an army of villagers. And right at the front, leading the pack with a look that could kill, none other than Lord Alastair. With the culprits finally cornered, Lord Alaric ordered the royal guard to seize them as townspeople swarmed. The mob was absolutely livid. Clinging to a misunderstanding, the merchants begged the Lord for a chance. They swore they weren't thieves, but Lord Cedric's face turned scarlet with fury. Alaric just stared them down. "Not thieves," he mocked. "Then why is your carriage packed with grain stolen from the sovereign storehouse?" Silence. They were caught red-handed. The crowd erupted, screaming for the traitors' heads to roll immediately. Cedric snarled at Alaric, cursing his name. How dare he use such a deceptive trap to ruin them? Alaric just smirked, playing his role perfectly. The evidence was undeniable. "Take them to the dungeons," he commanded. The tide turned. Soldiers and citizens alike closed in on the snakes who tried to starve their city. A flurry of boots and fists followed. They were arrested, exactly as Alaric had envisioned the night before. By sunrise, Cedric and his rats were rotting in iron-bound cages, paraded through the muddy streets. The commoners whispered, "Wait, aren't those the wealthy grain merchants? Why are they in chains?" Someone recalled they helped fight the warehouse fire. The confusion was thick. Everyone was looking for real answers. The infantry ignored the chatter, transporting the prisoners toward the city's high court for their final judgment. Sir Gareth rode up, impressed. "Disguising us as mountain raiders was brilliant, my lord. They never saw it." Alaric nodded. The merchants had already sold their souls to real bandits. He just beat them at chess. The hunter became the prey. Inside the grand hall, the truth of the conspiracy finally began to surface. Alaric stepped forward. He knew the people were desperate to know why their benefactors were behind bars. The roar of the crowd was deafening. "Give us answers. Where are the raiders who attacked us?" Alaric's voice boomed. "You're looking at them, these merchants. They are the raiders you fear." The room went cold. Confusion turned to shock as Alaric laid out their twisted web of lies. They hiked prices, hoarded grain, and then burned the royal storehouse to maximize their dirty profits. They were in bed with outlaws. When they realized they were caught, they were arrested. Witnesses stepped out from the shadows, confirming the Lord's words. The crowd's confusion turned into pure, unadulterated rage. These men wanted to watch the city starve for gold. Alaric didn't stop there. He pushed further. They didn't just steal. They risked every life in 𝒆𝒊𝒅𝒔 for their own greed. It was unforgivable. "How should we deal with such filth?" he asked. The response was a unified roar. "Execute them." Cedric paled. Alaric's gaze was ice-cold as he agreed. "Men like this, they deserve no mercy." The verdict was sealed. Conspiracy with bandits is an unforgivable crime. In this kingdom, that's the end. He sentenced them to the gallows right then and there. And well, the rope did its work. With the rot cleared, Alaric reminded everyone. These men burned food just to line their own pockets. "Not in my city," he declared. "From today, the high castle will serve as our central grain market." The people blinked. A castle, as a market, it was the first step toward a self-reliant kingdom. Alaric knew this was the foundation. He had to make his people strong and independent. A brave soul raised a hand. "My lord, what do you mean by selling food at the castle?" Alaric explained the new law. After the harvest, excess grain could be stored safely within the castle walls. The crown would buy it at fair market rates, ensuring nothing ever went to waste or rotted. Then he'd distribute it back to struggling families without charging a single coin extra. The crowd gasped. "Don't lose sleep," Alaric assured them, his voice warm. "I, Lord Alaric, will take care of everyone." He swore an oath. In 𝒆𝒊𝒅𝒔, no one would ever perish from hunger or lack of basic needs. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Hope, real hope, flared in every heart as they looked at their lord. "If only he'd led us years ago," someone whispered. The entire city joined together to honor him. By the next morning, the dust had settled. The city of 𝒆𝒊𝒅𝒂 was finally stable and standing. "We've found our footing," Alaric told his advisors. "Now we don't just survive, we conquer and grow." Time for business. He prepared to hand out new titles and vital responsibilities to his inner circle. Lady Nicola's heart hammered against her ribs. What role would he have for her? Gareth was called first. Alaric took the lead, accepting the title of High Commander without a second thought. Deep down, the nerves were hitting him. It was a massive new role, but he vowed to do his absolute best to honor it. With the first rank filled, it was Lady Alina's turn. Alaric knew the internal stress of the Royal Archive was getting to be too much. Handling the paperwork and the secretarial duties simultaneously was a nightmare, so he had a plan. He appointed her as the chief steward of internal affairs. Her new focus, keep the city running from the inside. Alina, however, was so lost in her feelings for the Lord that she just nodded, barely hearing a word he said. Then came the stoic Arwen of the Elven Guard, named Chief Secretary. She took the title with a face of pure stone, zero emotion. Finally, it was Seraphina's turn, Alaric's top pick. She was tasked as his full-time personal knight in shadow. No surprises there. She'd been his protector since the very start and wasn't about to stop now. With the council set, our hero declared that every one of them was now responsible for leading the city into a new golden age. The loyalty in the room was electric. Their determination matched his own, giving Alaric total confidence in the road ahead. Later, over at Ironhold City, the garrison was lined up in perfect formation, standing tall in their command post. Commander Sterling introduced the group, explaining these were the latest recruits to join the city's defense force. On cue, the soldiers let out a massive, earth-shaking salute. Alaric nodded, just the level of discipline he was looking for. With a sharp snap of his fingers, he ordered his toys to be brought out. As always, his orders were carried out in record time. The soldiers lugged the heavy crates, whispering to each other about what kind of secret weapons could be hidden inside. Alaric didn't keep them waiting. He ripped off the veil, revealing high-tech bows he'd brought over from the Far Isles. At first, the troops were just confused, but then it clicked. These were bows, but crafted from materials they'd never even seen. Alaric explained they were steel-glint magic bows, forged in his distant homeland with a specialized design. Instead of cheering, the soldiers looked uneasy. They'd never heard of such weapons and weren't sure what to think. Alaric then announced he was forming an elite unit of 50 master archers. That got their attention. Suddenly, the skepticism vanished. Everyone was leaning in, suddenly very interested in mastering these mysterious magic weapons. "Who wants to go first?" he asked, promising a special reward for anyone who could actually hit the mark. Some guys were hyped for the prize, but most of them stayed back, terrified of failing and looking like idiots. Alaric scanned the crowd again, waiting for someone, anyone, to step up and show some backbone. Finally, a volunteer. A soldier named Barnaby stepped forward, rolling his shoulders and trying to look confident. He was genuinely pumped to be the first man to fire a legendary magic bow in front of the Lord himself. Barnaby, a bit of a stout fellow, asked for permission one last time to test the new gear. Alaric liked his spirit. "You've got guts, Barnaby," he said, handing over one of the sleek magical weapons. Barnaby gripped the bow, ready for the shot of his life. Everyone was watching. He knew he couldn't mess this up. He pulled back with every ounce of strength and then, disaster. The string snapped back, smacking him right across the face. Blood started pouring from his nose, and in a fit of pure rage, the boy tried to snap the bow's string in half. But Alaric's gear was too high quality. The string just rebounded again, giving him another painful smack. The crowd was horrified. The soldiers started whispering about how impossibly stiff and hard these weapons were. Commander Sterling stepped in, reporting the men's concerns. Since they'd never seen anything like this, he had a suggestion. He asked the Lord for a demonstration. Alaric froze. He'd never actually planned on shooting the thing himself. Sterling pushed the issue, saying the men needed a leader to show them the way. Alaric was sweating. Even a leaner chimed in, asking if he actually knew how to use it. He couldn't admit the truth, not now. To keep the morale from tanking, he grabbed the bow. He had to make this look easy, no matter what. Then he remembered. Every time he warped between worlds, his physical stats got a permanent boost. "Watch closely," he told them. With a calm face, he gripped the string and began to pull. To everyone's shock, especially Sterling and the elven girl, he pulled it back like it was nothing. He handed the bow back to Barnaby, telling him to give it another shot. This time, the boy was determined. Barnaby took a breath, fueled by the Lord's example. He strained, he pushed, and finally he got into position. The troops went wild seeing their comrade pull it off. But Sterling, he was watching very, very closely. Wilfred couldn't control his aim to save his life, and the tension in the air was thick enough to cut. Everyone was sweating bullets, but by some miracle, the lad finally managed to release the arrow skyward. That single shot nearly turned into a funeral, because the sheer destructive power of this new bow was light years beyond anything seen in this kingdom. Jaws dropped. Suddenly, everyone turned their nervous gazes toward Lord 𝒆𝒅, the man responsible for bringing this chaotic gift into their world. Nobody wanted to be the next target, so the crowd scattered, leaving a wide, empty path in front of the young soldiers' firing line. The demonstration was a total disaster, and 𝒆𝒅 felt a pit in his stomach. Maybe handing out lethal superweapons to these boys wasn't his brightest move. But then, a thud. A goose plummeted from the clouds, hit square in the chest by that wild shot. Just like that, the soldiers did a complete 180. Their fear turned into pure awe, believing this weapon was a divine, magical relic for sniping a bird from such a staggering height. Wilfred, hearing the cheers of his comrades, was absolutely over the moon and went sprinting off to brag about his legendary achievement to his mother. Meanwhile, in the distant iron marches, the morning was looking bright. Birds were singing and laborers were hauling buckets of ore through the sunshine. Inside one of the warehouses, the main group gathered near a sign declaring that the land's potential was truly limitless. In this region, the amount of iron produced came down to one thing: the raw grit and effort of the local people. Looking at the bounty before him, 𝒆𝒅 was convinced that with his superior bow designs and a mine like this, victory was a sure thing. Then, out of nowhere, a worker approached the master to report that they'd already finished a batch of iron. But the moment the man handed over the finished product and begged for a scrap of food, 𝒆𝒅's heart sank. The iron was a mess, completely brittle and useless. He stood there in total shock, staring at the ruined ore. He couldn't wrap his head around how a grown man could turn high-quality minerals into whatever this garbage was. It was a wake-up call. He'd celebrated way too early, and if he wanted real results, he'd have to roll up his sleeves and oversee the forge himself. Step 1 in this world: exporting the raw minerals from the mining zone, a place where men break their backs just to earn a daily crust of bread. As 𝒆𝒅 walked the grounds, everything seemed to be going as expected, until he spotted a worker having a bit of a crisis. The poor guy was trembling like a leaf while trying to hammer a single piece of ore, and frankly, it was embarrassing to watch. 𝒆𝒅 stepped in, trying to be the motivational leader. He told the man to man up and strike with the strength of a true warrior. Seeing the lord of the city personally cheering him on, the worker's eyes lit up with sudden, desperate determination. He raised his heavy hammer high, ready to give it everything he had. 𝒆𝒅 smiled. His little pep talk actually worked. But then the worker squeezed his eyes shut to focus his strength, and when the ore finally shattered, a jagged shard went flying straight for 𝒆𝒅's face. Our hero just stood there, internally crying, wondering what he'd done to deserve this kind of luck. Soon they moved to step 2, the furnace. But thanks to yesterday's downpour, the stones were soaked, and they couldn't get a fire going for the life of them. 𝒆𝒅 figured a bit of modern tech would save the day, so he reached into his pocket and pulled out a lighter. He handed the strange gadget to his half-blood squire to test it out. The boy just stared at it, completely baffled as to what this relic was for. 𝒆𝒅 claimed it was a special bit of technology from his homeland, but he made one massive mistake. He completely underestimated how little these people knew about technology. He never imagined the kid would try to activate it with a rock. The squire smashed the lighter, and boom! The gunpowder and gas ignited instantly, kicking up a massive, suffocating cloud of dust. The workers coughed, convinced the magic just smelled like a swamp, while 𝒆𝒅 literally collapsed onto the ground in despair. He lay there wondering why he even bothered, but Madeline pulled him back up. They still had one more stop on this tour of disasters. Finally, they reached the foundry for step 3, the refining process. Inside the forge, it was a sad sight. The workers were desperately blowing on the embers with their own lungs, trying, and failing, to get the heat up. That's when 𝒆𝒅 stepped in with a better plan. He introduced a cylindrical bellows tool designed to crank up the air pressure. He gave it a go, and the iron finally started to melt. The workers were stunned by his genius, and 𝒆𝒅 ordered the boys to keep the rhythm going. Wilfrid, still riding that high from earlier, wanted more praise from his master. He spotted a massive hollow log and had a brilliant idea. He decided to replicate the experiment on a much larger scale, shoving the log into the furnace and blowing with all his might. Alester's eyes went wide. He knew exactly where this was going, and it wasn't good. Sure enough, the massive surge of oxygen caused the fire to erupt way too fast, and the entire furnace turned into a fireball. Later, after shaking off the soot and the trauma, Alastair cleaned himself up, thinking that being a lord was way harder than it looked. He tried to stay positive. The paper factory was next, and surely nothing could explode there, right? But as soon as he arrived, the elderly chancellor came running out, wailing in absolute desperation for his master. Alastair just sighed, looking toward the factory and preparing for the next inevitable disaster. The workshop was in total shambles. Our hero surveyed the smoking ruins and demanded to know what had caused this catastrophe. Was it a duel? An attack? The foreman sighed, explaining the disaster was actually caused by a simple lack of proper training. The artisans had tried to fire up the forge without knowing the steps. That's when it hit the hero. He had written a manual for this exact scenario. He couldn't understand which part they missed, but then he realized the harsh truth. These workers couldn't even read. He had completely overestimated their literacy skills. While he was face-palming, Alara, the Fey girl, was running around in the back, practically buzzing with energy. She was howling with laughter as she scribbled on a piece of parchment. "This is gold," she giggled, seeing this. Our lord decided to see what was so funny. He snatched the paper from her hand, and oh boy. It was a perfect caricature of him, getting blasted back by the forge explosion. The girl immediately turned pale with terror. She thought she was about to be executed for mocking the High Lord, but with a smirk, he simply asked if she could draw anything else. She was stunned. Later, tucked away in a tent, she nervously asked her master if her work was any good. He reassured her. As long as the technical steps were crystal clear, it would be a masterpiece, and she delivered. She handed over the finished blueprints exactly as he'd requested. One look at the final results and the Lord was floored. "This is worthy of a chief secretary," he praised. The drawings were flawless. He immediately called the laborers together to check out the new instructions. When they saw the diagrams, everything clicked. It was so easy. They began to cheer for the girl, hailing her for making the impossible project work. She had turned a complex mess into a miracle. Alara stood tall, boasting that it was all thanks to her and the Lord. With the new system in place, paper production returned to normal. Finally, the kingdom could breathe a sigh of relief. Iron production was also booming. They were finally using proper techniques to overcome those massive industrial hurdles. The new manufacturing methods were a total game changer, solving every technical problem they'd faced so far. The general secretary finished his report, promising that with more practice, their output would only get better. But then the captain spoke up. "My lord, what about the defense against those nomadic raiders on horseback?" The hero shook his head. "Stopping thieves is just the start. True prosperity requires total stability first." He unrolled a massive scroll, revealing his master plan. His staff stared in awe at what he truly envisioned. It was a complete map of the future Silvervale city. Meanwhile, a young noble was approaching the territory. Lord Cedric rode in with his knights and a massive caravan of supplies. He was fuming the entire way there. "What was father thinking?" he grumbled. "Sending me to this remote, backwater wasteland on official business." One of his soldiers nodded in agreement. "You're right, my lord. This place is supposed to be a dump." He groaned about hauling 150 kilograms of grain as a gift for such unrefined country folk. Cedric just wanted out. "Let's finish the trade and leave as fast as possible. Everyone, stay sharp so we can go." But when they reached the city gates, the reality was nothing like the noble had expected. Silvervale was no longer a ruin. The entire city was alive, with the population themselves leading a massive renovation. It was a thriving, bustling hub, nothing like the remote dump he had imagined. Cedric shouted in pure shock. He was stunned by the massive change, but his sudden shout caused a worker above to lose his grip. A heavy tool fell right off the building, and clank, landed squarely on the young noble's head. Cedric's knights went ballistic. "Do you have a death wish, peasant?" they roared at the man on the scaffold. But the worker didn't back down. "Can't you lot read the signs? You're in a restricted zone." Sure enough, there was a notice right there. Construction area, no passage. Cedric was absolutely dazed. He couldn't wrap his head around this. He was still worried about bandits, but the city looked like a fortress. As the castle gates swung open, a refined commander stepped forward to welcome the group of knights. Seeing the discipline here, Cedric realized he'd been completely wrong. This wasn't some backwater village. The authority here was elegant, firm, and impressive. With a shaky, embarrassed voice, the boy tried to speak. "It is a great honor to visit Silvervale," he stammered, mistaking the captain for the ruler of the city. The commander just smirked and invited them inside. "The Lord has prepared your rooms. Please come in and rest." Just like that, all of Cedric's pride and prejudice simply evaporated. He was in a whole new world. Julian looked like a top-tier aristocrat, but after waiting a while, his pride vanished. All he cared about now was his stomach. Pure bliss hit him when a slice of legendary cake was served. To cover for the Baron's delay, Arthur mentioned business was holding him up. The Baron promised to arrive soon, but honestly, Julian didn't care anymore. He wouldn't have minded waiting a decade as long as that cake kept coming. It was so good he actually tried to buy a lifetime supply. The smell alone was so intoxicating, it was even distracting the knights on guard duty. Slice after slice disappeared in seconds. The temptation was just too much for the young noble to handle. But eventually, the dream ended. The plate was empty. That's when he spotted a few tiny crumbs left behind. Driven by pure, unadulterated gluttony, Julian lost his mind. He did the one thing a noble should never do. Just then, Lord Alestair finally entered the hall with a polite apology. But the scene he walked into, absolutely wild. His first impression of the high-ranking visitor was a guy who had just chipped a tooth trying to bite the porcelain plate. Awkward. Julian was frozen in total embarrassment, unable to speak. Meanwhile, Alestair was doing some mental math about his guest. Westhaven was a trade powerhouse, surrounded by rivers and deep wealth. So how, Alestair wondered, could its ruler be this much of a clown? Regardless, Alestair kept it professional. He introduced himself, but as Julian looked up, he realized this baron was far more dangerous than he looked. Showing sudden respect, the boy stood up to greet Alestair, but the baron just waved him back down. "Stay seated, please." Alestair started by thanking him for the previous shipments of grain and supplies Westhaven had sent. Then, he cut to the chase. He asked why Julian had traveled all this way. The noble smiled, saying it was his pleasure to help, then dropped the bombshell. He wanted to buy weapons. A trade for military steel. Arthur was the first to react, jumping into the conversation. "That's completely irrational," he barked. He argued that selling their military secrets was a massive risk. He even questioned if Julian actually understood the gravity of what he was asking. As a high-ranking lord, Julian was well aware of the risks, but he insisted this was a unique, desperate situation. He looked Alestair in the eye, pleading for him to at least consider the proposal. It was a bold move. After looking over the request for specialized gear, Alestair realized Westhaven was definitely hiding a secret agenda. But then Alestair did the unexpected. He agreed to the deal on one condition. The price was going to be astronomical. Arthur was visibly outraged, but Alestair silenced him. He demanded a modest payment, 100 oxen, 300 sheep, and 200 prime warhorses. In his head, Alestair was already celebrating. His new forging techniques were light years ahead. This trade wouldn't hurt his military at all. Julian gasped. "That's abusive," he shouted, refusing the terms immediately. He claimed his city only had 30 oxen to its name. Alestair didn't flinch. He just adjusted the deal, jacking up the sheep count to 200 to make up for the lack of cattle. The pressure was becoming unbearable for Julian. 𝒆𝒅 leaned in, asking if 𝒆𝒐𝒉 even had enough livestock to survive the winter. Julian panicked. His spies had already warned him about the horse-riding marauders. If he didn't get these weapons, he'd lose everything anyway. Desperate, the boy made a final offer: 30 oxen, 150 horses, and 300 sheep. Would that be enough? 𝒆𝒅 stayed silent, his expression unreadable. Julian started to sweat, his heart hammering against his ribs. 𝒆𝒅 was loving this. He praised his own negotiation skills in his mind as he watched the noble crumble. Julian was frustrated, trying to argue against the insane demands. But then, 𝒆𝒅 pulled the good cop routine. He flashed a warm smile and accepted the deal. Julian let out a breath he didn't know he was holding, feeling like he'd actually won. He thought he was lucky to walk away with anything. Poor kid. He had no idea how much he'd actually lost. With the contract signed, the 𝒆𝒉 party loaded their carts and prepared to leave. 𝒆𝒅 personally saw them to the gates. He waved them goodbye with a grin. But the moment they were a mile down the road, reality hit Julian like a freight train. He realized he'd been completely swindled. Back at the castle, Arthur was still stressing about the weapons reaching the thieves' hands. 𝒆𝒅 wasn't worried, not even a little. Meanwhile, in the distant shadows of Ironport, a man was cleaning a crimson-stained blade. This was Lord Morrow's, the Sea Baron. He sat with the traders who had sold out Silverstone, mocking a dead count's son for being cunning. Morrows looked up, his eyes cold. He asked his men if the reports were true. Had the merchants and the riders really failed? His subordinate was trembling, barely able to stand as he confirmed the disaster. The Baron's gaze didn't soften. In a remote outpost, the atmosphere was suffocating. The man cleaning the bloodied steel, he was the one pulling all the strings. The nobles who had betrayed Silverstone watched him nervously. They knew what happened to those who failed the Sea Baron. He laughed at the memory of the Count's son. Cunning, he spat. The boy was a fool who thought he was a king. Now he wanted answers. He needed to know exactly how his elite riders and merchants had messed up so badly. The subordinate nodded frantically, confirming every single failure. The storm was coming, and everyone knew it. Baron Alaric was beyond fuming. Even if his gold was hidden, his servants should have found it, but they failed. In a flash of steel, he made one of those boys vanish in a spray of blood. His sword did the talking. Alaric was making a brutal point about his lost goods and the men he'd lost. Total ruthlessness. With a cold glare, the Baron turned to the last surviving servant, demanding to know who was behind this disaster. The terrified boys stammered out the truth. They'd tried to assassinate a high-ranking noble, got caught, and were executed in front of everyone. Alaric slammed his blade into the stone floor, absolutely losing it over the sheer incompetence of his underlings. Seeing the explosion, Lord Cedric, the man who used to own Ravenstead, stepped in to play the sycophant, telling Alaric not to worry because he had a plan. But the Baron wasn't hearing it. He was seeing red, especially since he'd basically sold the city of Ravenstead only for things to go south. He gripped his sword, testing the edge with a look that screamed murder, asking Cedric why on earth he should even trust him. Cedric was shaking in his boots. Desperate to stay alive, he claimed he just wanted to be the Baron's loyal partner and pleaded for him to calm down. His son, Arthur, chimed in too, arguing that they'd even sent knights in disguise to steal the city of Blackmoor just to prove their loyalty to Alaric. Alaric went quiet, deadly quiet. He warned them that for their sakes, those words better be the damn truth. Cedric scrambled to keep his poker face. He knew if the Baron didn't buy it, he'd have to personally go down there and handle things. But Alaric wasn't waiting. He sheathed his sword, determined to head back to the city's rural outskirts and see the mess for himself. So Cedric and Arthur began walking through Ravenstead, but the place was different, unrecognizable, really. Both of them were floored, jaws on the floor. What they were seeing with their own eyes just didn't make any sense. Cedric actually wondered if he was dreaming, or if he'd somehow taken a wrong turn into another world. Suddenly, they overheard some locals chatting. Apparently, the new city gaming house was hiring, and the pay, it was through the roof. The peasants were actually smiling, praising the new lord for giving them real jobs and decent wages for once. They even took a dig at the old owner, who only knew how to bleed them dry. Arthur almost lost it and started shouting to defend his father's honor. Cedric shut him up fast. They were in enemy territory and couldn't afford to be recognized. Not now. Suddenly, a man pointed right at them, yelling, "Over there!" The nobles panicked, thinking their cover was blown and bolted. But wait, everyone else was running too. It wasn't an arrest, it was a race to see something big. Arthur was totally confused. A massive crowd was gathering, practically begging for the new lord's attention. And there he was, Lord Leo himself, standing tall alongside a high-ranking noble from Blackmore. The Blackmore noble confirmed that the shipments of buffalo and goats had arrived, then asked about the furs they'd agreed on. Leo just smiled. He told the young man not to stress. He was about to give him something that would leave him more than satisfied. Watching from the shadows, Cedric and Arthur were baffled. They decided to sneak closer to see what kind of game this kid was playing. Right in the middle of everything, a massive sign was unveiled, the Ravenstead Grand Exchange. The two nobles watched, eyes narrowing. This had to be the new lord's big innovation. Leo stepped up to the mic, the podium. He announced that to change their lives and boost the city, they were opening this central market. The former owners still didn't get it. They were stuck in the past, completely blind to what was happening. Arthur actually mocked him, whispering that nothing good could ever come from a guy like Leo. Then, snip, the red ribbon was cut. The Grand Exchange opened, revealing a mountain of high-quality goods like the people had never seen. The crowd went wild. Cedric stood there, blinking, still doubting if a market like this was even possible. Leo invited everyone in to shop. He even handed out some pocket money to his demi-human companions so they could join the fun. The civilians were stunned by the sheer variety. It was like a dam broke. They started charging in, desperate to buy everything. It was a total stampede. The commoners literally trampled over the hidden nobles just to get to the stalls. Talk about a bad day. While the city was celebrating, Alaric's men were literally being flattened. Arthur crawled out from under the dirt, screaming at the idiots to watch where they were going. But before he could even finish his tantrum, someone else stepped right on his head on their way to the stalls. Absolute disrespect. Once they finally recovered, Arthur was fuming about the audacity of these peasants, but Cedric was just glad they made it inside. That's when they spotted Arya. She was negotiating with a vendor, and being a demi-human, she was pulling a lot of eyes. She was shocked at how cheap everything was, deciding to buy 10 items for just 1 steel mark each. The nobles were lost. Steel mark! It turned out Leo had invented a new currency where 10 normal coins equaled 1 metal mark. Arthur thought it was the dumbest thing he'd ever heard, but Cedric. He looked at his son and realized this was something much more dangerous. Inside a local porcelain shop, a high-ranking noble from House Sterling makes his grand entrance. This young lord, obsessed with luxury, decides right then and there to buy 100 delicate porcelain sets for his travels. He's genuinely stunned by the craftsmanship. It's incredibly fine, but there is a catch. If he spends this much, can he still afford his supplies? He shrugs it off immediately. Budgeting is for the peasants after all. The merchant asks for 200 gold coins, and young Arthur nearly loses his mind at the price. But his father, Lord Blackwood, isn't worried. He sees everyone in the city desperately hoarding goods and throwing money around. It is a literal feeding frenzy, with every merchant and visitor competing to grab whatever they can get their hands on. That's when Arthur realizes the truth. On day 1 alone, the new Lord 𝑴𝒆𝒅 is already swimming in gold while they have lost everything. Lord Blackwood snaps back, insisting they are still the true masters of 𝒆𝒊𝒅, even if 𝑴𝒆𝒅 holds the keys for now. With a chilling, almost manic laugh, he brags that soon even King Richard's power will pale in comparison to theirs. A little boy nearby watches this creepy display, wondering if these weirdos are the kidnappers the city lord warned everyone about. One look at Blackwood's twisted, villainous expression sends the kid screaming into the streets. "Kidnappers, help!" he shouts, leaving a very confused Lord Blackwood standing there wondering what just happened. Of course, the villagers do not hesitate to believe the innocent child and immediately form a mob to hunt the predators down. The nobles have no clue why they are suddenly being chased by an angry crowd, but they run for their lives toward the city gates. Just as they see a glimmer of hope at the exit, their path is blocked. A squad of elite beastmen knights stands in their way, and they are not happy about the chaos in the market. Realizing they are cornered, Arthur orders his undercover guards to strike first and clear a path. Big mistake. The lead knight, Sir Gareth, dodges the first swing with ease and levels the guard with a single, bone-crushing punch. Another guard rushes in, shouting about avenging his fallen comrade and ending this quickly. Same result. He is down before he even knows what hit him. Sir Gareth is just on another level entirely. Total desperation kicks in as the nobles realize their muscle is gone, and Sir Gareth wastes no time ordering their immediate arrest. The once-proud nobles are hauled away wailing in terror, while elsewhere, Lord Alastair is busy buying sweets. He hands a honey-glazed treat to Lady Alara, who is absolutely loving the festive atmosphere. She asks if the market will always be this packed, and Alastair just smiles, until news arrives that the kidnappers have been caught. Without a second's delay, the knights dump the two bound men right at Alastair's feet for judgment. Lord Blackwood hisses at his son to keep his head down, praying the city lord won't recognize their faces. Too late. Lady Alara spots them instantly, and Alastair's eyes narrow as he realizes exactly who he is looking at. The kidnappers are none other than the former lords, who once ruled this city with an iron fist. Alara's hand goes straight for her dagger, ready to end them, but Alastair stops her. They won't play their dirty games. She reminds him how cruelly these men treated her, and Alastair nods. He has not forgotten, and he certainly hasn't forgiven. Seeing them in these pathetic disguises confirms they were up to something shady, so Alastair decides to handle this personally. Alara backs off because she has to follow orders, but trust me, she is still absolutely fuming and wanting blood. Alastair steps toward the two trembling nobles, looking down at them like they are insects. He publicly praises Sir Gareth for securing the market, and then declares these men a threat to public safety. When he orders them thrown into the darkest dungeon, Blackwood realizes his pride and his life are officially over. The man tries to beg for mercy, but Sir Gareth shuts him up with a swift kick to the ribs. "Watch your tongue," the knight growls. "A peasant like you doesn't even have the right to speak the Lord's name." That was the final straw. Enraged, Blackwood rips off his cloak and reveals his true identity to the entire crowd. Alastair puts on a masterclass of acting, appearing shocked to see the great Lord Blackwood in such a state. He mockingly apologizes, claiming his guards just did not recognize them in those ridiculous kidnapper outfits. Then comes the real question. What is a high noble from House Stirling doing lurking around the city of 𝑦𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒆𝒗𝒂𝒍? Blackwood freezes. He cannot exactly admit he is there to spy on the man who outsmarted him, so his brain goes into overdrive. He quickly stammers out a lie about a massive, high-priority diplomatic matter regarding the city's future. Back at the manor, Lady Alara keeps her blade uncomfortably close to the noble's throat, making sure he stays absolutely terrified. Mid-meal, Arthur calmly sips his tea. Lord Stirling finally starts talking, explaining exactly why he requested this audience. He plays the "I'm just an old man" card. Sentimental nonsense about needing to reminisce because time is slipping away. He claims he's been feeling unwell ever since he left the city. Pure manipulation, and Arthur knows it. Then comes the real pitch. He wants to buy back the city of Brightwater. He saw the massive success of the new Grand Bazaar, and he's greedy. Knowing it's a bit of a bold request, the noble tries to act like he's doing Arthur a favor. "You won't lose a copper," he promises. He offers to buy it for the original price, maybe even triple or quadruple that amount. Suddenly, the door opens. It's Nicola. She arrives at the table with the special wine Arthur requested. Sterling is immediately offended. He sees the wine glasses and thinks serving alcohol now is a total insult to his status. Arthur doesn't blink. He hands a glass to the old man anyway, and Nicola tells her master to enjoy the vintage. Arthur is loving this. He notices Sterling's face turning a lovely shade of red, but wait. After one sip, Sterling actually loves the stuff. The noble sets his glass down and starts acting much more polite. He even apologizes for being so vague earlier. He lets out a heavy sigh. "To be honest," he whispers, "I only came back because of you." Arthur is genuinely confused. Sterling looks around to make sure no one is listening. He leans in close. This is the real play. He explains the cycle of violence. Every autumn, a group of border raiders comes to pillage Brightwater. Usually, it's a small skirmish. But this year, the rumors are terrifying. They aren't just coming to steal, they're coming with a massive, organized army. He places his hands on Arthur's shoulders, acting like a concerned mentor. "I can't let a young lord face this massacre alone." Arthur nods along. "You're absolutely right," he says. Sterling's eyes light up. He thinks he's got his city back. But then, Arthur flips the script. He says that since he bought the city, its protection is his sacred duty now. He tells Sterling he couldn't possibly let the former owner handle his problems. Talk about a cold bucket of water to the face. Arthur then offers a deal. "If you have info on these raiders, I'll trade you another glass of wine for it." Sterling is fuming. He thinks he's being mocked. He's about to storm out in a rage, but then, thud. Elara slams a dagger into the wooden table. A very sharp, very clear warning to watch his tone. The noble realizes he's outmatched. He mumbles that he doesn't know anything else and tries to make a quick exit. He gathers his men to leave, but Arthur stops him one last time. He knows exactly how to push a noble's buttons. "You haven't finished your drink," Arthur says with a smirk. Sterling is vibrating with pure, unadulterated hatred. Later, at the Sterling estate in the city of Ironridge, Felix asks his father what the hell happened back there. The boy is excited, bragging that the crystal goblets they got for the city have already tripled in value. They should be rich. Sterling loses it. He screams at his son to shut his mouth. He's in no mood for theoretical profits. Felix is shaking. "What's wrong, father?" Sterling looks at his piles of glass and realizes he's been played. He admits the brat, Arthur, rejected the buyback offer. Felix's entire world just crumbles right then and there. The boy goes from 0 to 100. "The Lord must die!" He starts screaming for the knights to prepare an all-out assault. Sterling shuts that down fast. "Calm down, you fool. That boy isn't as easy to kill as he looks." Felix doesn't care. He's just a kid. How could we possibly lose to a child? But Sterling saw the truth. He reminds Felix how Arthur handled the food merchants. That wasn't some lucky break. That was the work of a master strategist. Plus, he's surrounded by powerful demi-human warriors. A frontal assault is suicide. If they charge in, they'll just end up in chains. Felix is desperate now. Then what? We just let him keep Brightwater. Sterling's face goes dark. If we can't win in the light of day, we'll win in the shadows of the night. Arthur has only been there for a month. He doesn't know the city's secrets the nobles will use to bury him. Night falls. Crows circle the dark sky. The atmosphere in the castle is thick with the scent of betrayal. Inside the walls, a squad of elite soldiers stands in total silence. They're just waiting for the order to strike. Sterling looks over his secret army. "Is this enough to finish him?" Felix grins like a maniac. "Oh, it's more than enough." Leo has only been in this kingdom for a month, and he's still clueless about the local politics. The nobles, they're already planning his funeral. Darkness falls once more. Crows circle the obsidian sky, an omen of the blood that's about to be spilled. Within the fortress, a legion of elite knights stands in perfect formation, just waiting for the command to strike. Lord Cedric looks over the army, wondering if this is enough. Sir Tristan just smirks. Oh, it'll be more than enough. Arthur's plan is set, but the timing is the real question. How long until they move? 2 or 3 days is the estimate, but honestly, they've been idle too long. No action, no blood. So the call is made. The slaughter begins tonight. At the manor, a massive feast is underway. Arthur raises a glass, praising Nicola for her perfect timing with the wine. He looks truly happy, and for Nicola, that's everything. She couldn't ask for a better moment. But then Arya chimes in, teasing that the girl follows Arthur like a lost puppy. Nicola bristles, hiding her rage behind a mask. She claims she's just protecting him from Lord Blackwood's thugs. In her head, though, she's ready to kill anyone who threatens her love. She literally bends a silver spoon in fury. Arthur sees the mangled metal and gets nervous. The vibe is tense, but the other girls, just eating. To smooth things over, Arthur tells Nicola she did a great job and hands her a choice piece of chicken. She's bright red with embarrassment, but she accepts the reward gratefully. Pure bliss. Arthur then turns to the group, asking them to go easy on Nicola since she gets worked up over him. He admits she's been a total lifesaver at the castle lately. A massive relief for him, honestly. In his eyes, she's meticulous, careful, and man. The girl can really cook. Then he says it. Whoever marries Nicola will be the luckiest man alive. That hits Minerva hard. Marriage? Minerva starts spiraling, looking at the two of them and wondering if it's actually possible. The sweet atmosphere is too much. Minerva snaps, standing up abruptly with a scowl. "I'm full," she barks, storming off. Everyone is stunned. Minerva never leaves a plate unfinished. Arya thinks it's just a diet, but Arthur isn't so sure. This isn't like her at all. He can tell something is eating at her, something serious she doesn't want to say. She slips away into the night, heading for the castle walls to clear her head. She stares at her hands, wondering what's wrong with her. Why is she having these thoughts? She's a warrior of the cat tribe, a killer. That's all she's supposed to be. Suddenly, Arthur appears. "Why the sudden exit?" he asks. Minerva is caught off guard. He claims he lost his appetite too, even though the food was incredible. Minerva lies, saying she isn't hungry, but Arthur knows her better than that. She's usually starving. Then a light bulb goes off. Arthur thinks he's finally cracked the code. He looks at her with a smirk. "I get it. You're upset because I was praising Nicola." "You're jealous," he says with a smile. She's stunned. Meanwhile, the real shadows begin to move. Lord Blackwood's assassins begin their silent invasion of the city of Pentonville. A guard hears something. He turns to his partner, torch in hand, checking the darkness. But his friend is already gone, stabbed silently, a hand clamped over his mouth to muffle the scream. Panic sets in. The guard turns to run, desperate to scream for reinforcements. He doesn't make it. An arrow thuds into his neck, silencing him forever. The bloodbath has officially started. The bandits are ready to tear the city apart. Back at the castle, Minerva is a mess of nerves. She realizes it. She really is jealous. Every moment they've shared flashes through her mind. She's getting incredibly emotional. But she fights it. "Be rational," she tells herself. They live in two different worlds. A noble and a beastkin. It's an impossible gap. They can never truly be together. Arthur sees her distress and backtracks. "Hey, it was just a joke." Minerva isn't laughing. He starts boasting, claiming that as a lord, he could make anyone fall for him with a glance. Minerva doesn't doubt it, but she reminds him of the truth. She isn't human. She's a demi-human. No noble in history has ever married someone like her. It just doesn't happen. Arthur stops. He looks at her, making her heart race. And what's so wrong with that? He steps in close, trapping her against the cold stone wall. "To me, you're amazing." Our hero Lucian looks her in the eye and says he'd be the happiest man alive to have a beastkin bride. Especially now. Ilara can't even look at him. He smirks, asking what she thinks of the proposal. Her face, bright red. She's absolutely mortified, but she's not saying no. But outside, total chaos. Under the full moon, blood paints the cobblestones as the invaders tear through the kingdom's defenses. It's a massacre. Lord Cedric watches his knights with a cruel smile. Everything is going perfectly. He demands one thing, the head of the Earl of Ashwood. 20 gold sovereigns to whoever brings it to him. The mercenaries are buzzing. Cedric is convinced the boy who owns this fortress will regret ever crossing the high nobility. Back at the castle, things between Lucien and Alara are heating up faster than expected. They're already in bed, the tension thick enough to cut. This is it. They lean in close, eyes locked, lips just inches apart. The ultimate romantic payoff is finally happening for our boy. Lucien whispers to her, "Forget the formalities. Call me Lucien, not master." Alara's heart is racing. She's ready to give him everything. She closes her eyes, surrendering to the moment. But because this is a story and the universe is cruel, someone just had to ruin it. Boom! A soldier bursts through the door, yelling about the invasion. Talk about the worst timing in the history of the world. He starts blurting out the report, but then stops dead. He looks at the bed. Oh no. He realized he just walked into a disaster zone. Alara is beyond embarrassed. She's practically vibrating with shame. She bolts upright, screams something about leading the silver wolves, and vanishes into the night. She's gone like a ghost. The soldier just stands there, realizing he's probably about to be executed for his terrible, terrible timing. Lucien just sits there, staring at nothing. He was so close to his dream, and now ruined by a knock at the door. He's actually grieving the loss of that moment, but then he looks up and sees the soldier still standing there, just staring. Lucien snaps. "Why are you still here?" he roars. "Go find the commander and stop ruining my life." Pure, unadulterated rage. Meanwhile, at the front lines, the bandits are getting greedy. They want the best loot before their captain can claim it all for himself. One thug mentions the beastkin girl who follows the Earl. Another one laughs, saying rumors claim those girls are absolutely wild in the sheets. An assassin licks his lips. "The wilder they are, the better they break," he sneers. He's looking forward to this way too much. But suddenly, the mood shifts. Something's wrong. One of the mercenaries notices their captain is standing perfectly still. Too still. Thwack! An arrow pierces the captain's chest. He drops like a stone, dead before he even realizes he was being targeted. The assassin draws his blade, screaming for everyone to wake up. But it's already too late. The shadows are alive. Men are dropping one by one. The bandit turns around and sees his entire squad being slaughtered by an invisible force. He's losing it. "Who are you? Show yourself!" he screams, swinging his sword at thin air. He's paralyzed with fear, praying for a lucky hit. "Ask and you shall receive." The killer appears, and the first thing he sees are those sharp cat ears. A beastkin. He doesn't even have time to scream before she guts him. Just another body for the pile as she moves to the next group. In another part of the city, the 2nd Battalion thinks they're winning. But their leader is sharp. He hears something in the trees. He signals for a halt. His gut is telling him death is watching them from the canopy. He draws his steel, eyes scanning the dark. He's right. Alara is perched above, watching. These guys aren't like the last bunch. They actually know how to hold a sword. High in the branches, she waits for the perfect moment. The mercenaries are tense, searching for the threat their leader sensed. He spots her. As Alara throws her dagger, he deflects it and charges. Steel clashes against steel as they trade a dozen blows in seconds. The captain is actually enjoying this. Finally, the beastkin bitch shows her face, he shouts, a twisted grin on his face. 10 sovereigns for her head, he bellows. His men, blinded by greed, rush in like idiots, thinking they can actually take her. They can't. Alara is a blur of motion, dodging every swing with ease. She's playing with them, waiting for the real backup. One mercenary thinks he has an opening, but */. His back is opened up by a blade from the shadows. He didn't even see it. A new voice rings out. "The silver wolves have arrived. The reinforcements are here, and they are not playing around." The bandits realize they've walked into a meat grinder. The Earl's elite special agents are everywhere, and they're moving for the kill. It's a clean sweep. The bandits are neutralized in seconds, leaving only the group leader standing among the corpses of his men. Alara walks up to him, her blade dripping. "Any last words?" she asks coldly. She's ready to end this right now. But the mercenary just laughs, like actually laughs in her face. Alara is confused. What's so funny about dying? He crosses his arms, looking smug. Master Cedric was right, he sneers. You demi-humans are so incredibly stupid. He explains that this whole thing, the invasion, it's all going exactly according to the real plan, and they just fell for it. The plan is simple. Take out the leader and the rest will crumble. As the battle peaks, Madeline stands over her foe, offering him one last chance for final words. But the mercenary just laughs in her face. He's enjoying this. Lord Cedric was right, he sneers. You beast folk really are idiots. He explains the cold, hard truth. Every single move they made, it was all part of a massive trap designed to crush them. Everything is going exactly to plan. Right now, the Duke is being cut down by the invaders and the mercenary commander. He just keeps laughing. He's already planning to take over as the new Lord of Oakhaven. Lady Alina, she never saw this coming, not in a million years. She sprints back toward the keep, heart hammering against her ribs. But then, whoosh, a fire arrow hits a trail of oil already laid on the grass. A massive ring of fire erupts. Just like that, the tide of battle shifts. Those mercenaries, they've got the upper hand now. The commander takes aim again, launching a flaming arrow straight at Lady Nicola inside the castle walls. Inside, Nicola is terrified. She's shaking, convinced the raiders are going to burst through the door at any second. To calm her down, Lady Arabella steps in. Don't worry, she says. The Grey Watch and the Wolf Knights are already on it. Plus, they've still got Duke Arthur to protect them. She thinks it's impossible for the bandits to break in, but she's wrong. Arthur shakes his head. He knows Lord Sterling's mind better than anyone. He's coming through the hidden passage. Right, now. As soon as he says it, Arabella freezes. Footsteps, coming from the floor below. Arthur, he's actually excited. This is happening fast. No time to waste. He orders Arabella to find the captain of the guard immediately and tell him they're under a full-scale breach. Nicola looks at him, eyes wide. What about me? She asks. Arthur just smiles. Stay with me until this is over. You're safe. Meanwhile, Lord Sterling is deep in the stone alleyways. He's got a whole platoon of cold-blooded killers at his back. His son, Frederick, is watching in awe. He thinks his father is a bloody genius for knowing the secret path beneath the keep. He mocks Arthur, calling him a pathetic boy who'd never suspect a thing. Sterling just smirks. He's so sure of himself. He declares that today is the day Arthur's line ends. But as they move deeper into the dark, the air suddenly feels heavy. Sterling stops, dead. A sensor trips and an arrow whistles through the dark, grazing his cheek. Talk about a close call. The arrow barely missed his eye. Frederick starts panicking instantly. Traps, here, in the secret passage. Sterling's face goes cold. He realizes the Duke knew about this path all along. They didn't find a way in, they were lured into a cage. He can't be 100% sure, but everything points to one thing. Arthur saw them coming miles away. Suddenly, 3 bandits are yanked into the air by a rope trap. Sterling doesn't even blink. He orders his men to use the captives as shields. He literally forces the prisoners forward to trigger the remaining traps, using his own men as human guinea pigs. Pure evil. The poor bastards are shredded by dozens of arrows. Frederick and the others are horrified, but Sterling, he just keeps walking. No remorse, just a cold order to move forward. Finally, the group reaches the main gates of the inner sanctum. They smash the heavy oak doors down and storm inside. It's chaos. Sterling yells for his knights to find the Duke immediately. He wants his head on a platter. He sends his remaining soldiers to scour every single room in the wing. Hidden inside a large cabinet, Arthur waits. He's holding Nicola tight, listening to the boots thundering on the floorboards outside. Nicola, honestly, she's so happy being in his arms that she wouldn't mind staying like this forever, even with assassins outside. But the peace doesn't last. One of the killers spots the cabinet. He stops. He moves closer, reaching for the handle. Inside, Arthur is dead silent. He's already channeling his hidden power, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The man almost opens it, but someone shouts about hearing footsteps down the hall. He pauses. For a second, Nicola thinks they're safe. Wrong, the bandit turns back and rips the doors open. "Found you!" he screams, alerting every killer in the hallway. He raises his blade, ready to end them both right there. He's already tasting the reward, 20 gold coins for the Duke's head. But Arthur, he's not the boy they remember. He dodges the strike like it's nothing. His travels have made him something more. He slams a fist straight into the man's gut. The impact is insane. The bandit goes flying across the room like a rag doll. The guy is completely stunned. He thought he was hunting a helpless noble, not a monster with that kind of raw strength. Arthur looks at Nicola. "Stay put," he says. Then he turns to the remaining killers. "Your biggest mistake, finding me so soon." Nicola is swooning. Seeing her man stand up like that, she's never felt safer in her entire life. In his mind, Arthur remembers his journey through time and space. Compared to what he's seen, these guys are moving in slow motion. It's his time to shine. He charges into the fray just as Lord Sterling bursts into the hall. The two enemies finally lock eyes. Arthur gives them one final warning. Choosing to fight him today, worst mistake of their lives, and they're about to find out why. Sterling is furious. He orders his soldiers to kill the Duke and stop his arrogant speech once and for all. One assassin lunges with a dagger. Arthur doesn't even flinch. He slips the attack and counters with a brutal blow to the jaw. The impact echoes through the hall. The invading nobles are absolutely speechless. They've never seen speed like this before. Nicola is practically glowing. Her master is more than just amazing. He's a god among men, and she loves every second of it. Deep in her thoughts, 𝒆𝒅𝒊 puts her lord on a pedestal, turning her love into something legendary. But then, she spots a shadow moving in the dark. "Danger!" She screams out a warning to her master, but honestly, it was totally unnecessary. With reflexes like a seasoned knight, Arthur dodges two assassins with a casual leap, landing right behind the hooded killers. One heavy palm strike, that's all it took. The first man hits the stone wall with a sickening thud, out cold instantly. The second assassin just freezes. He's never seen speed like this. Arthur doesn't give him a second to breathe. One more hit, and it's over. The second man drops. Now desperate, Lord Blackwood screams for his soldiers to swarm the lord at once. He's hoping to bury Arthur under sheer numbers before he can even blink, but it's a suicide mission. Our hero's combat power is just on another level now. He cuts through them like a hot knife through butter until only the two nobles are left standing. Arthur looks at the bodies at his feet and just scoffs. "Is this the best you've got? You lot don't even know how to hold a sword." Cedric is absolutely losing it. He looks at his father, trembling, and whimpers that Arthur is way too powerful for them to handle. Time to go. The two nobles turn tail and sprint for their lives. Absolute cowards. Arthur shouts after them, "Don't run now, I thought we were fighting." But they aren't looking back. No way he's letting them go. Arthur calls out to Beatrice to join him. It's time to teach these intruders a lesson they'll never forget. She's all in. The chase is on, spilling out from the castle as they hunt down the fleeing nobles through the dark. While he's running, Blackwood is already seething, plotting his revenge against the city lord. Too bad Arthur is right on his heels. The nobles finally reach their backup, the location where the remaining mercenaries and their brutal captain are gathered. The captain smirks and drops some news. They've already captured the beast folk girl, 𝒆𝒅𝒊. Blackwood stops running and starts laughing. Finally, a bit of leverage he can actually use to his benefit. Meanwhile, trapped and alone, 𝒆𝒅𝒊 isn't thinking of herself. She's just praying her master is safe, wherever he may be. Blackwood walks up to her, mocking her. "I thought you were supposed to be some fierce warrior," he sneers sarcastically. "Turns out, you're just afraid of a little fire." He's got her and her squad trapped in a growing blaze. Suddenly, Arthur arrives. He takes one look at the situation his allies are in, and his blood starts to boil. 𝒆𝒅𝒊's eyes light up. Blackwood is stunned. How did the Lord get here so fast? Arthur's voice is cold as ice. "You came here to kill my people and steal my city." The noble just scoffs. He looks at Arthur alone and asks if he really thinks he can take them all on by himself. Arthur just shakes his head. While you're playing games, you've forgotten about the marauders coming to burn everything to the ground. Blackwood laughs so hard he almost chokes. He decides to let Arthur in on a little secret before he dies. Those marauders on horseback, they aren't bandits. They're actually the elite knights of 𝑑𝒂𝒂𝒅. The look on Arthur's face changes. It's serious now, pure, unadulterated anger. He clenches his fists until his knuckles go white. "You absolute scoundrels," he hisses, uncovering the rot in the kingdom. Now that he knows the truth, he declares that not a single one of them is leaving this forest alive. He goes to move, but the fire is spreading fast, closing in on his girls. Beatrice and the others are starting to panic. Blackwood taunts him. "Does the girl trapped in the ring of fire really deserve to live, Arthur? What's it going to be?" He's smirking arrogantly, thinking he's put Arthur in an impossible spot, a choice between revenge and rescue. Arthur looks at the flames. They're getting dangerous. He has to save 𝒆𝒅𝒊 first, that's the priority. He looks at the blaze and gets an idea. A weird one, but it just might work. He reaches for his power. He flings back his cloak and reaches into a shimmering rift in space, pulling out something bizarre. It's a metal canister, a fire extinguisher from another world. He rips out the pin and lets it rip. Thick gas sprays everywhere, and just like that, the massive ring of fire is completely smothered, dead. The nobles are terrified. They've never seen magic like this. 𝒆𝒅𝒊, overwhelmed, starts to cry tears of joy. As the smoke clears, Arthur steps forward like a legend. He looks absolutely unstoppable. 𝒆𝒅𝒊 can't help it. She throws herself into his arms, sobbing. Arthur just holds her and asks if she's okay. She tries to wipe her eyes, apologizing for being weak and putting the city at risk. Watching them from the side, Beatrice feels a sharp pang of sadness. Seeing them that close, it hits different. But Blackwood isn't done. As a last, desperate move, he levels a bow at the Lord's back. "Go to hell," he screams, letting the arrow fly. Beatrice screams out, her heart stopping as the worst is about to happen. But 𝒆𝒅𝒊, he's on another level. He literally catches the arrow midair with his bare left hand like it's absolutely nothing. Without missing a beat, he marches straight toward the man who tried to end him. Lord Stirling is visibly shaking in his boots. Stirling screams for his knights to protect him, but our hero isn't having it. He just rips through them using the sharp tip of that same arrow. Seconds later, the fight is over. 𝒆𝒅𝒊 has the arrow pressed right against the noble's throat, holding the entire situation at bay. He's beyond furious now. He looks Stirling right in the eye and asks how he had the audacity to try something so pathetic and cowardly. With sharp steel at his neck, the Lord is trembling in pure terror. But behind him, the mercenary leader is still burning with hatred. 𝒆𝒅𝒊 doesn't care about the glares. He decides to settle his own business first and orders the group of bandits to get lost immediately. He can see it in their eyes. Their will to fight is already gone. He tells everyone to leave so he can deal with the traitor alone. "Go, now." He repeats the order, wanting to be left one-on-one with the man responsible for this entire bloody invasion of his home. The killers actually start to reconsider, but suddenly a different order rings out. Someone isn't ready to call it quits just yet. It's none other than Julian, Stirling's own son. He's still standing there, weirdly confident that he can somehow snatch a victory from this. Stirling panics, asking if his own flesh and blood is trying to get him killed. But get this, Julian doesn't seem to care at all. The boy doesn't blink at the thought of his father dying right there. Stirling is terrified, trying to reason with his son as his life hangs by a thread. He begs, reminding Julian that he's his father. Julian just stares back with a cold, psychopathic expression. He's completely heartless. He calmly asserts that he'll just avenge his father after he's dead. Honestly, these two nobles are cut from the exact same cloth. Julian turns to the sellswords with a grin. 50 gold coins for the head of the Lord. He wants the Silvercrest estate all for himself. Once the current owners are out of the picture, this massive property is his. The mercenaries hear the gold mentioned, and their eyes light up. One sellsword asks what the plan is, and another just shrugs. As long as the coin is real, They don't care who they have to kill. Following Julian's lead, they all charge at our hero. They don't even care that Aleistar is holding Sterling hostage. It's pure chaos. Sterling is horrified by the betrayal. Aleistar dodges a sudden lunge, but the blade, it sinks right into the old lord's body instead. The elder invader hits the dirt, completely broken. Meanwhile, the other two assassins keep coming, totally relentless in their advance. One tries his luck first, but Aleistar shuts that down fast. One massive kick and the guy is neutralized before he can even blink. Two more swing their steel, but Aleistar just dances around them. He literally mocks them, saying they're way too slow to even touch him. Suddenly, he feels it, a prickle of danger right behind his back. He spins around just in time to see a bandit closing in. A sneak attack was inches away. For a second, Aleistar wonders if this is just luck, but then it hits him as he dodges again. This isn't luck. It's his brain literally warning him. He's sensing the danger before it even happens, like a sixth sense. It's all because of his journey through time and space. It enhanced his mind and body, turning him into a living radar for potential threats. Time to finish this. Aleistar lands a punch so hard it sends the bandit flying into two others, a total domino effect. The battle is winding down, and Alara is just standing there in total awe. When did her master become this insanely powerful? Aleistar stands over the fallen group and looks around. He asks if anyone else is brave, or stupid, enough to try their luck today. Julian is getting desperate. He actually slaps one of the bandits on the head, forcing him to get back into the fight. It's not exactly the best way to motivate someone, but since it's an order, the assassin moves in to be Aleistar's next victim. As the guy approaches, our hero just smiles. Then, out of nowhere, an arrow whistles through the air and hits the guy square in the chest. Talk about perfect timing. Reinforcements have finally arrived, and they've brought the heavy hitters with them for the cleanup. Lady Beatrice is leading the charge with Commander Neville right beside her, bringing the full might of the military to the gates. Neville doesn't waste a single second. He orders the soldiers to wipe out every last invading bandit immediately. No mercy, no delays. The archers draw back their bows. Julian looks up at the sky and realizes his little coup is officially dead in the water. The arrows rain down from a massive distance. Julian can't even process how they're hitting their marks from that far away. It's a slaughter. He completely loses his nerve. Julian drops his sword and runs like a coward, fleeing in a total state of panic. Sterling is begging for his life, but even his son, who tried to bolt ahead, isn't getting past that wall of elite soldiers. As the dust settles, Aleistar takes Alara's hand. He looks at her wounds and softly asks if she's going to be okay. Alara blushes hard. She tells him not to worry. He's seriously underestimating the toughness of a warrior from the 𝒊𝒆𝒄𝒅 tribe. Right then, Beatrice runs over, shouting at them. She's checking to see if everyone made it through the chaos in one piece. She starts bragging about their timing, explaining how Sterling was betrayed by his own guards and had to try and flee alone. But here's the funny part. Neither Aleistar nor Alara were even listening. They were way too focused on each other to care about the report. Both of them realized the truth. The highborn cowards had slipped away right under their watch. Alara didn't skip a beat, noting that the intruder was a fast one, but she was already moving. Her mission? Track him down and bring him to justice before he could vanish into the great forest. Deep in the woods, Lord Sterling was stumbling through the brush, clutching a nasty chest wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. He heard a rustle and froze. Was someone there? Luckily for the old man, it wasn't a hunter. It was Cuthbert, his own son, who was currently on his knees sobbing and pleading for his life to the shadows. Cuthbert eventually realized the night wasn't behind him, and Sterling let out a sigh of relief at seeing his kin again. However, the boy had completely tossed aside their family bond. He was ready to bolt and leave his father to rot just to save his own skin. Talk about cold. Sterling went ballistic. He stood tall, despite the blood, and demanded to know if the brat really thought he could just walk away from his own father. Fearing the old man's wrath more than the shadows, Cuthbert realized his best bet was to stick together. So, the two nobles started their desperate flight once more. For a second, it looked like they might actually make it. Then, a voice cut through the trees like ice. A voice telling them not to worry about running. It was Alara. She stood there with a terrifying calm, declaring that no matter where they ran, they were both going to die by her hand tonight. The moment they saw the beastkin girl, pure, unadulterated panic set in. But Alara, she felt nothing but cold satisfaction. She'd finally found them. Desperate, Cuthbert stammered out, asking what she wanted with them. Alara just laughed, a dark, hollow sound. Those words, they sounded so familiar. Her mind flashed back to the dungeon. She remembered the cold stone and the voice of a man telling her she'd be a good, obedient pet. After a month of starving, she remembered turning around and seeing the faces of these two very men, the nobles who orchestrated the invasion of her home. The trauma hit her like a physical blow, a whirlwind of pain and misery. But the time for suffering was over. Now, it was time for a little payback. She drew her twin daggers, the steel gleaming in the moonlight. Her master was right, men like these. They were nothing but absolute filth. Cuthbert went into a full meltdown, begging for mercy and offering bags of gold. He even tried to use Duke Blackwood's name as a shield. "The Duke protects us," he screamed. But honestly, nothing he said mattered anymore, not after what they'd put her through in that dark cell. With one swift blur of motion, she ended them both. It was over in a heartbeat. The lives of those two highborn monsters, extinguished. The chapter of her suffering was finally closed. Alara stood in the silence, thinking back to her time in that prison, a place as dark as this very night. But then she thought of her master, Lord Alaric. He was like the moonlight, the only thing guiding her through the darkness. All she wanted now was to be back at the manor, safe in his presence. Her personal business was settled, and Alara headed straight for the Lord's study. She hesitated at the heavy oak door, thinking he might have already turned in for the night. Still, she gave it a gentle push. Inside, she found Alaric sitting by the fire, eyes fixed on an old tome. Seeing her return safely to the palace, the young lord stood up immediately. He didn't ask for a report, he just asked if she was hungry. Alaric mentioned he'd even prepared her favorite soup, which Alara accepted with a grateful nod. But after just one spoonful, she stopped. This taste, it was familiar. "Lady Alinor made this, didn't she?" she asked. Alaric looked away, looking a bit sheepish for getting caught in a lie. He'd clearly had help. Despite the little fib, Alara was genuinely happy. She finished every last drop of that soup. In response, Alaric reached out and gently patted her head. He was so pleased she enjoyed the meal, but the gesture made her turn bright red. As he looked at her, though, he noticed something. There were a few crumbs left on her lip. He reached out to brush them away, but Alara, completely overwhelmed by her feelings, pulled back slightly. It was one of those heavy, romantic moments. They just stood there, gazing into each other's eyes as the tension between them started to boil over. Alara couldn't help herself. She leaned in, moving slowly, her heart racing as she went to kiss her master. It was finally happening, the moment he'd been waiting for, but just as their lips were about to meet, the door swung open. Enter Sir Alastair. For the second time tonight, their romance was cut short by the commander of the guard. The man just stood there, frozen. Alastair didn't know whether to run or apologize, but Alaric, he was absolutely fuming. The sheer frustration of being interrupted again was unreal. With whatever patience he had left, Alaric listened as Alastair apologized and turned to leave, promising to come back later. But Alaric called him back. The mood was already dead, no point in delaying. He sighed and asked his uncle what was so urgent. Alastair's face went serious. It was about Lord Stirling. He explained that with two high-ranking nobles dead, Duke Blackwood was almost certain to strike back in a blind rage. Alaric nodded slowly, the weight of the situation sinking in. They weren't in a position to fight a full-scale war against Blackwood's legions yet. Alara, hearing this, felt a wave of crushing guilt. She felt like she'd brought disaster to her master's doorstep, but Alaric just looked at her and told her to relax. The situation wasn't great, sure, but he wasn't worried. Why? because the Lord of 𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒆𝒃 always had a plan in his back pocket. The next morning, a few miles away, the crack of a whip echoed. A cruel overseer was lashing a beastkin worker without mercy. He barked at the laborers to move faster, threatening to starve anyone who slowed down. They were approaching the gates of the city of 𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒆𝒃. Leading the caravan was a grim-faced baron, positioned right behind the front line of supplies. The storm was officially moving in. With the granaries overflowing, Baron Sterling is feeling absolutely smug, convinced this year's harvest is his golden ticket back to the prestige of the royal citadel. He's already packing his bags, but the celebration is cut short when a messenger arrives, breathless, carrying a sealed letter from the fortress of High Reach. Sterling rips it open and his grin returns. It's official. Captain Alaric has successfully seized the city, and the victory is total. He scoffs at the previous lord's sheer incompetence before crushing the parchment in his fist. A dark, twisted smile spreading across his face as he realizes he's finally untouchable. The plan is simple. Rule this land with an iron fist and squeeze every drop of wealth from it until the final objectives in Oakhaven are complete. Sterling is obsessed with gold, determined to return to the capital with a fortune so massive it'll shock the high nobility. He wants respect. No, he wants fear. So those arrogant brothers of his who always looked down on him will finally have to treat him as an equal. But then, a sudden shout shatters his daydream, as a terrified soldier bursts in, leaving the Baron more than a little annoyed. The news is a disaster. The rabbit folk slaves have revolted and vanished into the night, sending Sterling into a blind rage as he orders his men to hunt them down and execute every last one. Deep in the woods, the Great Escape is in full swing, with the desperate Feikin sprinting through the undergrowth while the sound of boots closes in behind them. Among them, dozens of rabbit folk are panting, their hearts racing as the Baron's knights pursue them with unsheathed steel. They almost make it to the clearing, but the professional soldiers are just too fast, closing the distance with terrifying efficiency. With a single, brutal swing, a knight cuts down the first fugitive, a psychopathic grin on his face as the others watch in absolute horror. The soldier actually licks the fresh blood off his blade, declaring that disobedience is a death sentence before continuing the cold-blooded massacre. It's a total bloodbath, and a young girl named Alara is right in the middle of it, her legs shaking so hard she can barely take another step. Seeing her struggle, two of her kin charge the knights, throwing away their lives just to buy her a few precious seconds of hope. The largest warrior bellows for Alara to run south and never look back, begging her to survive for the sake of their people. Choking back sobs and fueled by pure adrenaline, the girl sprints away, the weight of her entire tribe's legacy resting on her small shoulders. Through the biting cold and the pitch-black night, Alara keeps pushing, crossing the vast fields that border the kingdom of Ashford. But luck isn't on her side. An arrow whistles through the dark, coming out of nowhere and catching her completely off guard. She hits the ground hard, only to find two scavengers looming over her. They immediately realize she's a valuable runaway from the Silver Stream labor camps. To them, she isn't a person. She's a payday, and they're already dreaming of the gold they'll get by selling her in some distant slave market. When the sun finally rises, Alara wakes up in a moving cage, her mind a fog of pain and confusion as she tries to figure out where she is. Nearby, the scavengers are arguing, worried because they know that trading Feikin is strictly forbidden within the Ashford borders. They decide to take a treacherous mountain path to dodge the authorities, desperate to protect their merchandise and their profit. Panic sets in as Alara listens, realizing she's about to be traded like livestock all over again. She remembers the faces of those who died to give her this chance, and a new fire ignites in her heart. She will survive this, no matter what. The traffickers are pushing the horses hard, figuring they can make the crossing in less than half a day if they don't stop for anything. "Faster!" they shout, wanting to be clear of the patrols before nightfall settles over the valley. Then, crack, the wagon slams into a hidden rock, the wheels shattering and sending the entire cart flipping into the dirt. Alara sees her opening. The wooden bars of her cage have splintered, and the spires of Ashford are visible in the distance. While the two idiots are busy screaming at each other about who's responsible for the accident, 𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒆𝒗𝒂𝒍 slips out of the wreckage. It takes them a minute, but the purple-haired bandit suddenly realizes their lucky break has completely vanished into thin air. They spot her a second later, a small figure bolting toward the Ashford outskirts, and they immediately give chase. They know if she reaches the city limits, she's gone for good, and they'll be the ones in chains. 𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒆𝒗𝒂𝒍 dives into a massive wheat field, her breath coming in ragged gasps as she crouches low, trembling with pure fear. The bandits are tracking her like animals, following the trail of blood she's leaving on the crops, their voices getting closer and closer. She tries to crawl through the stalks, making as little noise as possible, but her strength is fading fast. "Found you, little rabbit." They corner her, mocking her failed escape just when she was so close to safety. With the very last of her strength, 𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒆𝒗𝒂𝒍 lets out a piercing scream for help, a final prayer that someone, anyone, might hear her. And then, a cold, commanding voice cuts through the air, telling the hunters to stop exactly where they are. The bandits spin around, acting tough and demanding to know who thinks they have the right to interfere. They find themselves staring down Sir Julian and a full squad of Ashford soldiers, who coldly inform them that they're the ones who are out of line. The hunters' faces go pale as they realize they've just picked a fight with the elite garrison of the kingdom. Sir Julian steps forward, noting that since they aren't citizens, Ashford law has a very special way of dealing with scum like them. It's time to pay the price. The mercenaries are shaking, whispering, "Is this man really the legendary Duke of Highbury?" 𝒆𝒂𝒆𝒗𝒂𝒍's heart is pounding. She's terrified. To her, this is just another noble looking for a new toy to break. But Arya isn't having it. With a sharp, grumpy tongue, she tells the traitors that the Duke already knows exactly how to handle scum like them. The lead hunter is stunned by her boldness. Then it hits him. His prey are standing right next to the Lord as equals. Reality check. Slavery is a death sentence in Highbury. The man starts stammering, realizing he's messed with the wrong jurisdiction. "It's a mistake," he cries. He claims they weren't hunting humans, just a beast creature. Huge mistake. The Duke is livid, but the beast girls, they're absolutely furious. They don't wait for an order, they charge. It's a total slaughter. The merchants never stood a chance. Amidst the chaos, 𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒆𝒗𝒂𝒍 tries to crawl away, desperate to escape. She refuses to be a noble's plaything again, but her body fails her. Her strength is completely spent. Darkness takes her, her last thought, hoping Matilda tells the Duke where to find her body later on. Next thing we know, 𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒆𝒗𝒂𝒍 is in the Duke's personal chambers. Master Barnaby, the city secretary, is working frantically on her. She's in critical condition. Lying on the silk sheets, Barnaby does everything in his power to patch up that nasty arrow wound. But it's bad, really bad. The bleeding won't stop. Barnaby sighs. It looks like a tragic end is coming. Arya starts to panic. She begs her sister for a miracle, but Matilda is just as helpless and lost. Then Duke Alaric walks in. "There's still a way," he says. He's talking about closing the wound himself. Everyone is baffled as he puts on strange, white gear. Surgery. Nobody's ever heard of these modern medical methods here. "Don't just stand there," Alaric barks. He demands sterilized water and fire, snapping his companions into action. And it works. The miracle happens. Master Barnaby can't believe his eyes. The wound is actually closing and improving. Alaric explains the process. Not just stitching, but special medicines to stop the inflammation and the internal infection. The girls are floored. Their master isn't just a lord. He's a medical genius with knowledge beyond their world. In her dreams, 𝒆𝒂𝒆𝒗𝒂𝒍 sees her parents again. They gave everything to save her from the hunters. She jolts awake, expecting cold stone and chains. She's sure the noble who owns this city is waiting to hurt her. She's drowning in sadness, praying to the heavens for a quick end rather than more suffering. She screams, begging for mercy. But wait. Her eyes open, and she realizes she's nowhere near a dungeon. She takes a breath. The panic starts to fade. It was just a nightmare, a really, really bad one. This room is beautiful. It's like something out of a fairy tale. Alara stares out the window, totally confused. That's when Matilda walks in. "Finally awake, I see," she says, trying to start a normal conversation. Alara recoils. In her mind, Matilda is just a brainwashed pet for the humans. You can't trust the nobility. But Matilda is patient. She gently takes Alara's hand and pulls back the fabric to show the treated wound. "You were healed," she explains. "But if you keep thrashing around, you're going to open that arrow hole right back up." Alara freezes, completely embarrassed. Someone actually cared about her. She doesn't know how to react. The heroine tries to leave anyway, her pride still up. But Matilda stops her with one final warning. "No more bad-mouthing my master," Matilda says firmly. Alara breaks down, sobbing, begging to be set free. She wants to run south, anywhere but here. She just can't take the life of a slave anymore. Matilda watches her, seeing her own broken childhood reflected in those tear-filled eyes. It hits close to home. Arya steps in to clear the air. "Hey, stop the waterworks. Nobody here is going to make you a slave." The truth hits her. She's a free citizen now. Highbury has a strict no-slavery law for every race. For people like them, this city isn't a cage. It's a goddamn paradise for demi-humans. Later, after a change of clothes, Alara enters the dining hall. Duke Alaric is there, eating with his friends. "The new citizen has arrived," Arya announces. Alaric just smiles and invites her to sit and eat. Arya nudges her, telling her not to be scared. But seeing humans and demi-humans eating together, it's completely unimagined. Alara is so tense that when Alaric starts to speak, she jumps, knocking her cup right over. The liquid spills everywhere. Pure panic. She's terrified that the punishment is coming for her mistake. In a desperate move to save herself, she starts tearing off her clothes. It's a heartbreaking sight. Matilda quickly covers Alaric's eyes just as Nicholas walks in with the next tray of food. Talk about a mess. Lady Nicole is absolutely fuming. She catches the girl about to strip and rushes over, demanding to know what on earth she's doing. Violet panics. She quickly explains it's all a big misunderstanding. She was only taking her top off to use as a rag to scrub the table. But then she stops. She remembers that despite the harsh rumors, this man actually tended to her wounds. She offers a silent prayer for Lord Leo. Nicole, however, isn't feeling the gratitude. She's struggling to hold back her rage now that yet another rival has appeared to crowd the master's personal space. Dinner is served, but Lord Leo notices something. He asks Violet if she even knows how to use proper silverware. When she admits she's clueless, Lady Arya steps in to give her a quick lesson. Violet's a natural. She picks it up almost instantly. Then comes the first bite. The flavor, absolute heaven. It's so good she feels like she's on a spiritual journey through the clouds. Nearby, Leo gives Minnie a gentle pat on the head to thank her for her hard work. Watching this, Violet starts to wonder, is this Lord actually different? Cut to the coast. Massive ships are pulling into the port of Kingswood, packed to the brim with supplies and a new crew. As they approach the docks, the crew from the territory of Lowland notes that everything is moving exactly as intended. But there's a snag. The servant mentions that Baron Osmond decided to skip the trip, which immediately makes the ambassador suspicious. Sir Roland figures the Baron stayed behind because the mission was just a simple letter delivery, but his servant won't stop grumbling in his ear. Roland ignores the whining and takes a moment to scan the horizon. He needs to see what this city is really made of. They finally disembark, and immediately, a swarm of carriage drivers surrounds them looking for work. One young driver hops down and offers them a lift. The servant is offended. Does this boy not realize Roland is a high-ranking noble? The driver doesn't blink. He brags that his carriage is the best in the land, wide, comfortable, and fitted with incredible new wheels. He even offers a discount. While others charge 5 metal coins, he'll do it for 3. The servant nearly has a heart attack, thinking he means 3 gold coins. The driver laughs. It's a misunderstanding. He's talking about the new metal coins the Lord invented. It's explained that 1 gold coin is now worth 10 of these metal ones, making trade easier for everyone involved. The servant admits the price is a steal, while Roland starts to get curious about the logistics of this new currency. They hand over a gold piece, get their change in metal coins, and finally begin the journey into the heart of the territory. As they travel, Roland inspects the coin carefully. The craftsmanship and the minting technique, honestly, it's remarkably delicate. But his focus shifts when they reach the city gates. His jaw drops. This place looks like it could actually challenge the royal capital. The infrastructure is magnificent, but it's the people that really stand out. Everyone looks happy, genuinely joyful. It's so vibrant that Roland starts to wonder if the previous ruler, Lord Cedric, was actually a man who truly cared for his people. Before long, they arrive at the castle. Inside, they bow low and introduce themselves as the official emissaries from Lowland. Immediately, Leo's guards step forward, forming a protective wall in front of their master. Roland is confused. Why the hostility? He thought Baron Osmond and Leo were supposed to be on the same side. Regardless, Roland tells the Lord not to worry. He's just here on the Baron's orders to deliver a highly classified letter. Leo's curiosity is piqued. He takes the parchment and starts reading while the embassy waits in total silence. A smirk plays on his lips. The ruse worked perfectly. Osmond completely believes that Kingswood belongs to him now. Realizing the Baron sent these two as unsuspecting pawns, Leo doesn't even hesitate. He tosses the letter straight onto the floor. After the dramatic drop, Leo looks them in the eye. Have you two actually read what's written on this paper? Confused by the Lord's bizarre behavior, Roland picks it up and scans the lines. His face goes pale. The letter outlines a brutal plan to invade and attack the Lowlands, Roland's own home territory. Leo stands up, his voice echoing. He declares that while Osmond calls himself a noble, he's nothing but a common thief in a fancy suit. He explains that the Baron is only after money and wants Leo's help to pillage the Lowlands for profit. Roland is reeling. His servant, Thomas, starts crying out. He's convinced the Baron sent them here specifically to be executed. The poor boy starts sobbing, begging Roland to run while he stays behind to hold the villains off. He's already saying his final goodbyes, praying that he can serve Roland again in the next life. Leo just stands there, feeling incredibly awkward. He's trying to help, but they're acting like he's the ultimate bad guy. Roland can only let out a heavy sigh as the weight of the Baron's betrayal finally sinks in. The young page breaks down, sobbing as he begs his master to escape while he stays behind to face certain death. He's already bidding his life farewell, praying to serve his lord again in the next world. Talk about loyalty, it's heavy stuff. Honestly, it makes Julian feel pretty awkward. He's being treated like a total villain here, but he knows if Lord Cedric falls now. The man before him definitely isn't Lord Cedric, and he's right, because the man standing there is actually Arthur of Greywood. Realizing his life might be forfeit, the young noble makes one final, desperate plea. As his last wish, he begs Arthur to deliver a letter to the Duke of Somerset. He wants the Duke to be able to protect his people. Arthur takes a moment to think, then signals his guards to move in immediately. Sir Thomas tries to stop him, arguing that these messengers don't actually seem like bad guys. Arthur actually agrees. I mean, they even brought gifts. So he asks if they really intend to warn the Duke of Somerset. They confirm it, and honestly, this works out perfectly for Arthur's own plans. See, his new position requires some serious naval power, and he needs ships at Port Somerset. Everything is moving along until a sunny day at the capital, but inside the castle, pure chaos. The Duke is losing his mind because his missing treasure is still nowhere to be found. His guards are baffled. They haven't found a single track of these horseback raiders anywhere in the city. Was it all just a fake rumor? The Duke wants to believe it, but the anxiety is eating him alive. Because if those raiders are real, he's going to lose every single gold coin he owns. The mere thought of losing his precious hoard literally brings him to tears. This guy is seriously attached to his stuff. He snaps back into high alert mode and orders his men to keep digging until the autumn harvest. No mistakes allowed. That's when his son arrives, and guess who's with him? Arthur, the Lord of Ravenwatch, holding a mysterious scroll. Arthur claims he has the intel that will solve every single one of their current problems. Everyone gathers at the table, and the Duke reaches for that scroll like his life depends on it. He's desperate for news on the raiders. But Arthur pulls back. "Not so fast," he says. "He went through hell to get this info, and now it's time to talk business." The Duke starts low, 2 gold coins. Denied. He tries 20. Still a hard no. Because what Arthur actually wants in exchange: 2 massive war galleons. Jaws hit the floor. Talk about a power move. Arthur points out that Somerset is world famous for its shipbuilding. Since Ravenwatch just built its own port, they need some top-tier muscle on the water. The Duke flat-out refuses. Those ships are the lifeblood of Somerset. He can't just give them away. Arthur doesn't blink. He explains that this scroll doesn't just have names. It has the when, the where, and the how of the entire invasion. That changes everything. The Duke realizes that if this intel is legit, he can wipe those thieves off the map forever. And if the raiders are gone, he can finally focus his resources back on the ship market. After a long, tense silence, the Duke looks at his son and agrees. But there's a catch: he can only offer medium-sized vessels. Arthur pivots instantly. "Fine, then make it 5 ships instead of 2. They haggle back and forth until they settle on 4. With the deal finalized, the Duke starts to feel like he's been played. Even though he got the info, it feels exactly like the time his son got outsmarted. He unrolls the scroll, and as he reads, his face goes pale. He sees the full, brutal plot. It's a scheme orchestrated by Earl Blackwood to burn his city to the ground. The 2 nobles are in pure despair. 5,000 horsemen. They don't have the strength to stop a force like that. But Arthur has a plan. He notes that Earl Blackwood is trying to hide his identity, so why not play his game? Don't just defend, ambush them. Capture everyone and leave absolutely no soldier alive. Arthur sounds confident, but the nobles think he's insane. They reject the idea immediately. It sounds impossible. The Duke argues that even if they mobilized every single soldier they have, they'd still be crushed by Blackwood's 5,000 troops. That's when our hero drops the big one: a military alliance. He tells the Duke he's already prepared a little demonstration to show exactly what his men can do. Later that day, the soldiers of Ravenwatch gather just outside the city walls. It starts with the archers. They let fly, hitting every single target with terrifying, lethal precision. The Duke is stunned. What kind of bows are these? The distance and sheer power behind those shots are unlike anything he's ever seen. His son is impressed too, but Arthur just smiles. "We're just getting started." Suddenly, knights in heavy iron plate armor appear, wielding longswords and smashing through everything in their path. Arthur orders his archers to take aim. Once they're locked on, he gives the command to fire. The Duke watches, skeptical. Those bows are great but penetrate solid iron armor. No way, or so he thinks. This was meant to be the turning point in the war. The prince himself turns to Baron Leo, asking just how many knights his city can actually field. Leo doesn't even blink. Enough to wipe Baron Osmond's forces off the map. You could practically hear the sighs of relief from the other nobles. As they shower him with thanks, our hero just shrugs it off. If the lands of Stirling were to fall, everyone would be in trouble anyway. Duke Mordred's influence will explode. In that case, his own city of Silvercrest wouldn't have a prayer of surviving the aftermath. Helping Cedric isn't just mercy, it's securing the future of House Stirling. Moved by this noble gesture, the 2 lords completely lose it. They're crying actual tears, rushing to embrace Julian and praising him as a true saint. To see where this madness goes next, hit that notification bell right now. Stay tuned for more, and I'll catch you in the next one on the channel.